The Cellcast is recorded in front of a live streaming audience.
Cellcast, rock the Cellcast, Dragonuary. Cellcast, rock the Cellcast, come get me. Dragonuary. Cellcast, rock the Cellcast, Dragonuary. Cellcast, rock the Cellcast, come get me. Cellcast, rock the Cellcast, Dragonuary. Cellcast, rock the Cellcast, come get me. Dragonuary. Hello and welcome to another episode of the Cellcast. Joining me today is a man who, well, sometimes he just feels like fighting in the rain. Welcome, Jacob.
Well, it is relaxing. It is relaxing. You'd be like, you can get away from things, you get away from your worries, and you can have a one-on-one conversation with God when it's nice.
While you're fighting?
Yeah, while you're fighting, exactly. What centers you in a fight? Why? Thank you. Let me introduce our co-host, the man who apparently is so vain had to summon Shinron to take 5 years off. Welcome, Drew.
The sad part is, if I was that vain, I can tell you it would be to reduce my stomach. and it would be obvious. People would think I had work done. Also joining us this evening is a man who, well, he just turned orange for some reason, and we're not sure why. Welcome, Dallas.
Sorry, my colors are off balance. I gotta get in there and change the macros. So why is the Kelvin set so low? All right, hey, how's it going, guys? Glad to be here with y'all tonight.
Yeah, thank you for coming.
Indeed.
I'm excited.
Yes, this will be fun.
Tonight, we are finishing Dragonuary with our review of Dragon Ball Superhero.
Whoa.
This is another one of these names I don't like because I keep wanting to say a different thing. But we will be getting started. Why don't we just go ahead and jump into our spoiler-free thoughts on that?
Certified fresh and spoiler-free.
Dallas, you're our guest. Why don't you start?
Spoiler-free thought on Dragon Ball Superhero. I'm not gonna lie, I've been wanting to watch this for a while. I saw previews for it, and I'm a Dragon Ball fan. I'm wearing my Dragon Ball hoodie, and
Nice.
There's something about it from my childhood that's just special, and specifically because it seems to be focusing around Piccolo and Gohan, which I have thoughts about. But say words, Dallas. The art style of it I'm watching, though, it was interesting to me because specifically of some of the characters, because it reminded me of an older anime called Cyborg 009.
Oh,
And I was really going, I've been wondering this entire time, is there a connection between Toriyama and Cyborg 009?
Well, besides that, they both their things went to Toei.
Right? So
I don't know.
But yeah, so that's my spoiler thing right now is just that I was excited about this. Like, legit, the previews were exciting, and the animation was like, it felt like a video game at times, but at the same time, it was like, this is kind of cool.
So this is my second viewing of it.
Oh.
And my first viewing was when we did the reaction to this.
Yes.
What, 2 years ago?
2 years ago.
Which you can go listen to that episode. I wish I'd have thought to listen to that before now.
Yeah.
Just to see what my thoughts were immediately after watching this.
Yeah, because
originally, I remember that I had some issues with the 3D, but we'll get to that. But yeah, this is my second viewing of the film. I did enjoy it more this time. I think the shock of the 3D animation was just not, it didn't hit me this time, so I was able to just appreciate more of what the film was.
Right.
If you like Dragon Ball, I have to suggest this film because it's a great film, and plus, Pan is just so cute in this.
Yes. She was freaking hysterical.
Yeah.
Well, I'll talk more about that in a minute, but Pan is almost like 9/10 of the reason to watch this film. And
That is true.
And the other, well, sorry, I'm going to rephrase it, 5/10, because the other 5/10 is Piccolo being a grandpa.
Yeah.
Yes.
So,
Yeah, basically.
yeah. Jacob, what are your thoughts?
So like Drew said, this is like, for me, this is my second time watching this film. Again, the first time I was doing a reaction to 2 years ago, when we saw it in theaters. That was a fun experience. I think with Drew, I had the exact same issues with this film, because they did shift to more of a 3D modeling the entire film comparison to what they did with Super Broly. I think with my second viewing, I have a little more appreciation for this film, because it does have a really good story. Because there again, it doesn't focus on Vegeta or Goku.
They are supporting characters.
They're
in
supporting
this.
characters,
Right.
in a Dragon Ball movie, which is absolutely astonishing. So I do love the dynamic you have between Piccolo and Pan, and yeah, because it's kind of the passing of the torch to the next generation, of, because you do see like the younger generation start to come into it. But overall, I did really enjoy this film. So I have really enjoyed Dragonuary so far. Hopefully next year we'll go into other parts of the Dragon Ball universe.
We've got some possibilities. We can't really do a whole TV show because they're long.
Yeah, they are long. Unless you want to do Kai.
Even Kai.
Yeah, Kai
Even
is
then,
huge.
man.
Kai is huge.
It would take us to 100. It's 100 episodes to the end of the Namek saga.
Dang.
No, I'm sorry, to the end of the Cell saga.
Wow.
It's not quite as long as I just made it out to be, but still.
That was the original one.
Yeah.
Yeah. So fun fact, so I was just curious, because I was looking on Hulu, because I know Crunchyroll has it, because I know that they have it on Hulu. So I looked it up and was like, you know what? They have all of Kai, and it's okay. So,
Which, by the way, remind me off screen to let you know something Crunchyroll wise.
gotcha. All right. So I was like, you know what? I'm gonna start watching Kai, because I've never watched all of Dragon Ball completely, because obviously little bits here and there, like you're in football and this and this and this. But I started watching it, and on Hulu they only have they started episode 2, not 1. Which is what? How do you do that with a series?
I don't know.
Like, come on, Hulu, do better.
There's some weird things with how Crunchyroll handles Dragon Ball and some other animes.
Yeah,
so
agreed. Like for example, on Crunchyroll,
Yeah, 'cause,
all the Dragon Ball movies,
yeah, but Battle of Gods.
all except Well, I was getting to that.
Sorry, I jumped ahead.
Yes, the main problem I have with it, because you have all those films that are dubbed on Crunchyroll, they're all subbed, except for the new films, which is like, seriously.
Some of that's contract work, though. And
Yeah,
to be
agreed.
perfectly honest with you,
There is probably some licensing issues,
Yeah.
and I wouldn't be surprised if some of it might even be music
Right.
related, because a few of those are using the original English score, but some of them aren't. I have the Blu-rays of all of them over here.
wow.
And I know some of them are. They still got the new music. The English music. Some of them unfortunately don't have them because they fully licensed like a ton of songs for Broly.
Yeah, they did.
Even though they're all in the credits, but you can't hear them anymore. But yeah, I will also fully admit here, I have never. There are parts of Z I have missed, but I did you one better in the fact that I have read the entire manga of Dragon Ball and Dragon Ball Z.
no kidding.
I own the entire manga of Dragon Ball and Dragon Ball Z.
Ooh, okay.
Wow.
So
Impressive.
yeah, I think I get a little bit of a boost there, but even if I haven't watched the entire anime,
I respect that.
I might have to tell coworkers because whenever we work together, it turns into, so what have you been watching Dragon Ball lately? It's like, oh, okay, I have a friend who has all of it.
Right. So
But
you
yeah.
probably, since you read them all, you probably caught a lot of the references better than because a lot of the references in this were for going back to the manga, not a lot
there
of
are
Easter
a
eggs.
lot more, because that is the thing we'll get more into, is that this movie is actually canon with the Dragon Ball Super manga.
Right.
There is some is not technically a sequel to the show. But I mean, there's not that many things. It's just more like, you know, Gohan and Piccolo's relationship and all that is the only thing it really references.
But I also heard like
of that.
Flying Nimbus was purple in this, in the brief shot you see it, and that's because Flying Nimbus was purple in the original manga.
Yeah, it was.
Really?
The few times you see it in color, because I have the original non-colorized version, because they started releasing the colorized editions after I finished my collection.
Of course.
And I would have preferred the black and white ones anyway, but it does go to color every once in a while when it would have been color in the original Shonen Jump issues. And yeah, the colors are different sometimes. That's why as much as I think it's weird that Trunks has blue hair in Super, because I'm still used to because I'm so used to Future Trunks in Z having purple hair. He does have blue hair in the manga, so
It took me a while to get used to that also, because I was used to the purple.
Still wondering why Kid Trunks' hair never changed till this movie.
Yeah, that's true.
But that's all beside the point. Y'all ready to jump into the spoiler-filled section?
Let's go.
Sure.
All right. The following is a spoiler-filled review for the film Dragon Ball Super: Superhero. Listener discretion is advised. Dragon Ball Super: Superhero was directed by Tetsuro Kodama. This is actually his first movie,
Really?
but he did direct an episode of, I think of it was an OVA called Ganbare Lulu Lolo Tiny Twin Bears. I get the feeling it's for kids.
Sounds like it.
So you have these two very different things on his IMDb.
I feel like you have to sing that title.
Well, you almost have to, because it's very poetic.
Yeah. It's very
Give us a little song there, Drew. Go on.
Ganbare Lulu Lolo Tiny Twin Bears.
There we go, ladies and gentlemen. Put that on
There's
Spotify.
your theme song.
Check it out on Drew's SoundCloud later this week.
For that one. Fine.
Somebody who's really good at dubstep, just make that into like a big techno song. Of course, it was written by Akira Toriyama, and I don't just mean based on Dragon Ball. I mean, he still wrote this one.
Right.
He has written all 4 of these films. The only difference was Battle of Gods actually had work done on it before Akira Toriyama got involved. I just want to throw that out there because I don't think of Akira Toriyama as a movie writer.
Right. But I feel like after GT, he was super involved with stuff.
Yeah.
Well, except for Evolution, of course.
Yeah, because he actually
And
hated
the
it.
entire reason Battle of Gods even got made was in reaction to Evolution.
That's fair.
So, yeah, that's the only reason why we have modern Dragon Ball. So, getting
Thanks,
into
Dragon Ball Evolution.
Yes, thank you, Dragon Ball Evolution. I will drag you through the mud later. Getting into the cast, we've got, of course, this is the English cast, as I always do with anime. We got Sean Schemmel playing Goku. Oh, I should mention before I get too far down this list, there's going to be somebody, a voice actor on here, that's going to be there's going to be some very obvious choices to say what else he was in. And I intentionally skipped those because I'm going to bring it up later. So just fair warning. I'm sure you'll know who it is when I say it.
Got it.
But we got Sean Schemmel playing Goku. And in the Disney Channel original series, Star versus the Forces of Evil, he played the Box of Truth.
Box of Truth. I watched that entire series. It was good.
I don't know what the Box of Truth is because I didn't watch that far into it.
I don't recall that character.
I think it was like one episode.
It's related to the cake, because the cake is a lie.
Yes, the cake is a lie.
Oh.
The cake that was a lie was inside the Box of Truth.
That's deep.
There's a paradox for you, and I don't just mean 2 ducks. Kyle Hebert voiced Gohan, and in the anime Full Metal Alchemist, he played Vato Falman.
No.
Robert McCollum was Goten and half of Fat Gotenks. Fat Gotenks is how he's credited. I just want to throw that out there.
When that's your credit.
Yeah, but he was in My Hero Academia. He played Stain.
Oh, wow.
Okay.
Chris Sabat was the voice of Piccolo, Vegeta, Korin, and Shenron. And in the television series Ruby, I say television series, it's more of an internet series.
Hold on. Flag on the play. What was his character creation? His character skin? Piccolo and who?
Who now?
He played Piccolo, Shinron, and who else?
Corrin.
So he had a whole scene where he was talking to himself?
Yes.
Yes.
All right, cool.
This is standard operating procedure for Chris Sabat. Or have you not watched the original dub of Dragon Ball Z?
My man's just like having a multiple personality moment right there in the studio.
I just want to know if he can just switch back and forth between the characters mid-conversation.
Right.
So he doesn't even have to do a
that's
second
real
take for
talent
the
right
other
there.
guy. Yeah,
Oh, agreed.
Chris Sabat's one of what used to be Funimation's big people.
Right.
So, yeah.
Or just have him between, you have Piccolo, then you have Vegeta, and then you have Shinron.
All in
It's
the
like
same
all in the
scene.
same scene.
But yeah, anyway, like I said, in Ruby, he played Arthur Watts. Alex Lee was the voice of Gamma 1. And in the anime Mashal, Magic and Muscles, he played Mash Burndread. Or Burndead.
No
I think I
way.
wrote that wrong. Yeah. He was Mashal. Or Mashal. He was Mash.
Go. Mosh is awesome.
Zeno Robinson was the voice of Gamma 2. And he plays Fighter D in Go Go Loser Ranger. Which, yeah, that is actually the name of the main character in that. Because literally, if y'all don't know what that show is, it's about a grunt for the evil army. Think like a putty.
Yeah.
After Rita gets destroyed, decides to apply to the Ranger program to take the Ranger program down. That's basically what it's about.
That's hilarious.
So he doesn't have a real name, so he's Fighter D. Because he's the fourth fighter.
Interesting.
Yeah, anyway. Zach Aguilar plays Dr. Hedo. And in Mobile Suit Gundam Iron Blooded Orphans, he played Takaki Uno.
Let's go.
Charles Martinet was the voice of Magenta. And in the video game The Lord of the Rings The Third Age, he played both Eoden and Gimli.
Oh.
Cool.
So he's used to playing short people.
Let's go.
It's dirty.
That was great.
Please tell me this man is tall, though.
He's about normal size, I think.
Charles Monet. I'm going to look
Charles
him up.
Martinet.
He plays Dadgum Mario.
Yes.
Yeah, that's
A
why I
lot of
mentioned that earlier.
And Wario. This man plays nothing but short people.
Yeah. He played the Toad Chancellor in Super Mario Sunshine too.
He's 6'3".
He's taller than most of us.
Jason Marnoka was the voice of Carmine. And he played both Megatron and Galvatron in Transformers War for Cybertron.
Ooh.
Wow.
Okay.
Jenny Torado played Pan, and she is the voice of the female version of Byleth in Fire Emblem Three Houses. That's the main playable character.
Interesting.
Eric Vale was the voice of Trunks and half of Fat Gotenks. And he played Nuno Kargan in Mobile Suit Gundam, The Witch from Mercury.
Oh, the new one.
Can you tell when I have guests on, I try to pick my choices based on who my guest is?
Good man.
Meredith McCoy was the voice of Android 18, and in Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood, she played Maria Ross.
I remember her.
Johnny Young Bosch takes
My dude.
over as Broly, and of course, he was Ichigo Kurosaki in Bleach, and Adam Park in Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. Just throwing that out there. Sonny Strait was the voice of Krillin. And in most of Funimation's adaptations of the Lupin the Third series, he played Arsène Lupin the Third.
Oh, neat.
Jason Douglas voiced Beerus, and he played Jacques Schnee in Ruby Ice Queendom. Ian Sinclair voiced Whis, and he was, I'm going to missay this name, Rajan Zahi in Mobile Suit Gundam, The Witch from Mercury. And Damian Clark was the voice, or at least the growls, of Cell Max. And in the original Full Metal Alchemist only, he wasn't in Brotherhood, he played Scar.
Oh, wow.
The main, I think he's the main villain of that show.
Yeah,
One
I
of the
think
main
so.
villains. Anti-hero.
Been a hot minute since I've seen it, but I think so.
It has been a hot minute since I've seen it too. I just remember seeing him a lot. Kingdom Hearts connections. Guess how many we have? And bear in mind, for the purposes of this list, Super Smash Bros. Ultimate is a Kingdom Hearts game.
16.
I'm gonna go with. I don't want to go with the cliche. It's over 9,000 because can't go there. But let's go with a good 24.
Get my mouse over here.
Yes,
Y'all both need to go down.
Oh.
Down.
I'm going to go 10.
10. So, ooh, let's go 15.
Dallas needs to go up. Jacob needs to go down.
14.
There you go.
Huzzah!
It was 14. Now, of course, I'm not going to read all 14 because half these people I've listed sometime in the last 3 episodes.
Yes.
So if you want to know the full list, go check out the other episodes. That's a good way to get some audience downloads, isn't it? But in the English version, Johnny Young Bosch, who is Broly in this, plays Zero in Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, as in Mega Man's ex's friend.
Yeah.
And, of course, Charles Martinet is the voice of Mario, Luigi, Dr. Mario, Wario, and Waluigi in Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. In the Japanese version, Mamoru Miyano, who played Gamma 2, and he is the voices of Riku, Riku Replica, Dark Riku, and Young Xehanort in Kingdom Hearts. Miyu Irino played Dr. Hedo in this, and he was Sora and Vanitas in Kingdom Hearts. And Norio Wakamoto was the voice of Cell Max in this, and plays Xemnas in Kingdom Hearts and Metal Face in Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. And of course, this is the one I have mentioned every episode. Akira Toriyama is the creator of Dragon Ball, and he did the character designs for the Dragon Quest characters appearing in Super Smash Bros. Ultimate.
So I'm curious if ever Toriyama did voice work for his own creation.
My understanding is no.
Oh.
Just in his head.
Just in his head.
I'll tell you what, why don't you do info and stuff? I'll do a quick look and see if he ever did voice work.
Okay. All right. So, info and stuff. IMDb is a 7.1 out of 10. Rotten Tomatoes is a 95% and 95% from the audience score. So this got good ratings overall. It wasn't, oh my gosh, the critics hated it or the audience loved it. They both loved it equally. That's very, very unique. Production was Toei Animation. Distribution was Toei Company. Runtime was 99 minutes. Released in Japan on June 11th, 2022. Here in the United States was August 19th, 2022. Box office. I could not find I'll find it in a minute. The estimated budget. So it's, let's see. The opening weekend for North America was $21.1 million on August 21st. Its domestic gross for Canada and the United States was $38.1 million. And its gross internationally was $86.5 million. Now, it did earn 2.8 billion yen. That's conversion to the United States was $17.3 million in Japan. Home release. Dragon Ball Superhero was released on Blu-ray and DVD on March 14, 2023. The film featured English language dubbed and original Japanese language in subtitle. Crunchyroll also announced that the movie would become available for worldwide streaming on its services on July 12th, 2013, with subs available in 11 languages and 9 languages even for dubbed. And that's all I have for info and stuff.
So, according to IMDb, he was been in 3 things. One was a podcast talking about Dragon Quest. Fair enough. One was a video called V-Jump Chrono Trigger, in which he apparently was the narrator. But the interesting one to me is he is a man fleeing from Godzilla, uncredited, in 1984's The Return of Godzilla.
Really?
So apparently he's got a voice cameo somewhere. Or maybe he just shows up.
I'm going to add one to your list. He plays a character named I was just at it. Toripo, which is the name of the little in the mangas. You know, he has that little selfie. In it.
Is in show Avatar.
He voices that and plays it in a game called Blue Dragon. It came out.
That's from the guy
360.
the head producer of that is Hironobu Sakaguchi, who created Final Fantasy 2. So came out on the 360, I believe. It didn't do well, I don't think, over here, but because it was on the 360, and that's not exactly where JRPGs were known for. But all right, getting into the summary. Commander Magenta, CEO of Red Pharmaceuticals, seeks to revive the Red Ribbon Army, previously led by his late father, Commander Red, before it was ultimately destroyed by Goku over 3 decades prior. Magenta and his assistant, Staff Officer Carmine, seek to recruit Dr. Giroux's surviving grandson, Dr. Hedo, a superhero-obsessed mad scientist who was released from prison after serving a lengthy sentence for grave robbing. Despite his initial reservations, Hedo accepts the offer after Magenta convinces him that Bulma's Capsule Corporation is an evil organization which is bent on world domination. Of course.
Yeah, of course.
I need that that sound clip on my soundboard of Raul Julia doing that as M. Bison. Anyway, while Goku, Vegeta, and Broly are training under Whis on Beerus's planet, Piccolo is annoyed over Gohan wasting his potential while training the latter's daughter, Pan. Piccolo is attacked by a Red Ribbon android, Gamma 2, but manages to evade the android and follows him to the Red Ribbon Army's base. Piccolo disguises himself as a soldier to infiltrate a meeting where he learns that Gamma 1 and 2 were created by Hedo to defeat Capsule Corporation and their superpowered allies. Hedo also reluctantly used his grandfather's schematics on Cell to create an improved version known as Cell Max. Piccolo asks Bulma to make contact with Whis to alert Goku and Vegeta to the threat, but she is unable to reach him. Piccolo asks Shenron to unlock his full potential before learning of Magenta's scheme to kidnap Pan in order to lure Gohan into a trap. Piccolo volunteers himself for the kidnapping and directs Pan to play along. Enraged upon learning of Pan's abduction, Gohan transforms into a Super Saiyan and launches a full-scale assault on the Red Ribbon base and fights Gamma 1 and later transforms in a ultimate form while Piccolo faces Gamma 2, with his full potential manifesting in a new form dubbed Orange Piccolo. Piccolo manages to convince Gamma 2 that Magenta is lying about Capsule Corporation and the Gammas realize that the true villains are the Red Ribbon Army. Carmine is knocked out by Pan after attempting to kill her, while a furious Magenta activates Cell Max before getting killed by Hedo. Cell Max emerges as a giant rampaging monster. Bulma arrives with Goten, Trunks, Android 18, and Krillin as reinforcements. Gohan, Piccolo, the Gammas, and the other fighters battle Cell Max. Goten and Trunks try to fuse into Gotenks, but their fusion technique is imperfect. However, Gotenks does manage to crack the Cell Max's skull, revealing that he does not have a regeneration ability like the original Cell. Gamma 2 sacrifices himself in an attempt to kill Cell Max, but only succeeds in destroying Cell Max's left arm. After Piccolo is defeated by Cell Max, Gohan's inner rage manifests into a new beast form, and he fires a special beam cannon, killing Cell Max.
Where do you learn that from?
Gohan is reunited with Pan, while a repentant Hedo and Gamma 1 are given positions at Capsule Corporation. In a post-credits scene, Vegeta defeats Goku for the first time in a lengthy sparring match on Beerus's planet by landing the match's final blow before collapsing himself.
Finally!
And we still hasn't learned his lesson about making sure he checks his messages. Because he did this 2 movies ago.
He did.
Getting into the trivia for this. Akira Toriyama began to write this film immediately after the completion of Dragon Ball Super Broly. This is the first Dragon Ball film in the series to be produced mainly in 3D animation. Pan is shown that she hasn't learned to fly already, although in the anime, she had managed to do that when she was just a baby. However, Toriyama considers the manga as the original source, and in the manga adaptation of Dragon Ball Super, Pan can't fly yet. Piccolo's house makes an appearance for the first time in any form of media. This is the first time in the franchise that we are shown how Dende manages to give the Dragon Balls more power. Akira Toriyama said that compared to the three previous films that he wrote, he got so deeply involved in the production of this film that he left the writing of the manga adaptation to Toyotaro to continue it by his own. However, he constantly checked the manga to correct details of the story. For the first time since Dragon Ball GT: A Hero's Legacy, the Chala Head Chala theme song is not played in the movie. This will be the first time since the original Dragon Ball anime that onomatopoeias will appear, and the first time that they are used for fight scenes just like they were in the manga. Cellmax's design is based on Semi-Perfect Cell's design. This is because that design was Toriyama's favorite for the character, but he couldn't use the design for too long since his editor told him to change it because he thought that Cell looked like an idiot. In Dragon Ball Z and the original manga, it is mentioned that the Namekians only drink water to survive. However, in Dragon Ball Z, it is shown and mentioned that Piccolo eats some food. When Dragon Ball Z Kai was released, those references were deleted, and the series reaffirms that the Namekians only drink water. Akira Toriyama stated that Gohan had been capable of achieving the Beast transformation since the Majin Buu saga, thanks to Supreme Kai unlocking all his potential. However, Gohan has never fought seriously and consistently suppresses his emotions and power. Additionally, he occasionally stops training. In the Dragon Ball Super manga, during the Universe 6 tournament arc, that's not the Tournament of Power, it's actually a different one. Vegeta hints at the Beast transformation, but reaffirms that Gohan continues to suppress his true power. As always, every single name in Dragon Ball is a pun. So here are this movie's. Continuing with the Red Ribbon Army's use of all their characters having names based on colors, we have Magenta, which is a reddish purplish color and is actually used in the four-color printing process, and Carmine is a shade of red.
Can I pause you for a second?
Sure.
Do you know who Magenta's parents are?
Commander Red.
And Commander Violet.
That doesn't surprise me.
Oh, that makes sense.
That was his mom.
That makes total sense.
Yeah.
If you look on one of the scenes, there's a picture of the two of them on his desk.
I missed that.
Oh, okay.
And what does Red and Violet make? Magenta.
I was like, really? It's so stupid, but it's so funny.
Gamma 1 and 2 are, of course, based on the Greek letter gamma. Mm-hmm. And I learned, while doing this, what the naming scheme for Dr. Giroux's family is.
Oh,
Really?
Dr. Giroux, who was, of course, also Android 20 in the anime, his name comes from spewing, as in, bleh.
Oh.
His wife, who in Dragon Ball Fighter Z was the template for Android 21, her original name was Vami, as in vomit.
Oh, gosh. Really?
I never
Come on,
thought about
Toriyama.
Dr. Giroux's son, Gevo, who is used as a template for Android 16.
Okay.
Gevo also means Japanese word for
To vomit.
upchuck.
Oh, jeez.
wow.
And
I'm gonna go, wow.
Dr. Hedo, using the same naming scheme as the rest of his family, is actually the Japanese word for vomiting.
Oh my gosh.
However, I will also point out that the name Hedo sounds awfully close to the English word hero. So I think that's a double reference there.
Ah.
That
A
makes
very
sense.
nauseous family. Yeah.
Yes, thanks, Artsy.
Yes, thank you.
This movie marks the first time Piccolo is given not only one, but two transformations, and Gohan is given a new one for the first time in 20 years. At the end of Dragon Ball Z and for most of Dragon Ball Super, it is never mentioned what kind of scientist Gohan became, nor if Videl had a job. This movie finally reveals that Gohan is an entomologist, studying bugs, and Videl teaches martial arts.
Oh, that makes sense.
Paul, I do believe someone in that family should have been named Chuck.
Yeah, agreed.
That's amazing.
Yes, Bear Chuck. Hey, Chuck!
In the opening of Dragon Ball Z, you can see a sequence where some cables resemble veins and then form a hand. This sequence is referenced in the opening of this film, with Dr. Giro's hand appearing in a similar manner. Mm-hmm. This movie takes place 1 year before the ending of Dragon Ball Z, since Pan is 4 at that moment, and in this movie she's 3.
Oh, okay.
And the reason that you see Oreos all throughout this film is because Oreo actually paid to help promote this film both in Japan and America.
Knew it.
Thank you, Nestle. Actually, Nabisco. It's not Nestle. It's Nabisco. And that's what I have for trivia.
Oh, my word.
Good stuff.
Oh, so to follow up what I was looking for earlier, I couldn't find the estimated budget for this film, so I did find it. It's actually it had an estimated budget of $20 million. Apparently, it just blew this out of the water because this movie made a lot of money.
I wonder how much of that was given because of the Oreos.
It's like, yeah, we'll show some money and be like, here's a bunch of Oreos. Have fun.
I just want to know if any of the
bunch of 3D
advertisement
animated Oreos.
had Dr. Hedo like throwing Oreos.
I
Because
just
he's
wondering
tossing
if
cookies.
I was just wondering if Hedo did, after gorging on all those Oreos at one point. Anyway.
Oh my gosh.
Dallas, since you are our guest, why don't you tell us what your first like is for this film?
Right. So I only have one like, right?
You get 2.
I got 2. Okay. I
2
thought the
likes,
email-
2 dislikes, since there's only 3 of us.
Sweet. I thought the email said 2. 1. So all right,
I
cool.
may have counted it wrong. My apologies.
My first like about this was let me look at my notes again because I had several things written down. I have like 4 pages of notes on this alone.
Okay.
My first like is simply this. I really enjoyed the humor of this. Like,
Yeah,
like
agreed.
there was amazing action. Like the fight scenes were great, and then it was great. Like the way they segued into some of the comedy of it. Like it was just a great balance of tones throughout the entire. I know sometimes when you switch back and forth, it feels broken up, everything like that. But when it was serious, it was great. The action was awesome. But when there were funny moments, it genuinely just made me laugh. And I appreciate the way that the writing was able to balance those 2 things out. It almost gave me like Jackie Chan vibes. You know what I'm saying? Where Jackie was really great about being able to balance that comedy and action, especially in some of his earlier stuff like Super Cop and whatnot. So that's my first like. It's just the tone and the humor and the action mixed really well.
Agreed.
Yeah. My first like for this is the relationship between Pan and Grandpa Piccolo.
That's a good one.
Thank you.
And yeah, I am calling him Grandpa Piccolo because let's face it, as while Goku would have done is not a deadbeat dad. I don't fall into that camp of saying that Goku is a bad dad. I don't think Goku had a chance to be a good dad for most of the part through Dragon Ball because he's dead for most of it.
Right.
It's hard to be present when you're dead.
I mean, the only thing I'm gonna dunk on Goku for during that time period is the year he stayed away from Earth because he wanted to learn instant transmission on Yardrat after the Namek Saga. He should have come home faster. But beside the point,
It's Goku. He always wants to train.
but as I was saying, Piccolo basically raised Gohan.
Yeah, he did.
When you get right down to it. So I liked, and admittedly, his training with Gohan is different than his training with Pan, because his training with Gohan was about saving the Earth from incoming Saiyans. His training with Pan is just teaching her to defend herself. So he's able to be a lot more easier on her. And more maybe, and he's probably, and let's face it, he's kind of mellowed out in his older age, and plus having been combined with Kami and Nail probably helped a little with that.
Yeah.
But we'll talk about that later. But I just love how they seem like the best friends, even though they're. I just love how that goes back and forth. How he knows how to talk to her and say, "Hey, I know you can break out of these cuffs, but just play along for a bit. We're gonna go see if we can figure out who's trying to get to trick Gohan into coming after to save you." And I love that point where he says where during the big fight, and he leans down and says, "I need you to scream as loud as you can."
Gosh.
And when he
like you're hurt.
does, and the camera switches back, if you're looking, he's not holding her by her shirt.
No.
He is holding a hand up there to make it look like that, but if you look, you can tell he's holding her up on her feet so she doesn't
she's
have
doing this number with his hands.
I was like,
It's so good.
it's like just those minute details. You can tell that these are there's definitely a grandfather-granddaughter relationship, even though technically they're definitely not related by blood.
Right.
But
Have you seen those antennas?
I just love that relationship the two of them have, and it's 9/10 why I think Pan also has Anya energy throughout this whole thing. It's because she's allowed to have. Gohan was never allowed to actually be something like that, but Piccolo pretty much being there for her the whole time allowed her to be, like I said, pretty much be Anya from Spy Family. It's kind of how I looked at it.
Okay, it makes sense.
So yeah,
That's fair.
Jacob.
I'm gonna piggyback right of yours because the dynamic between Pan and Piccolo is so good in this film, because I'm so thankful that they shifted the character dynamic away from, oh, this is about Goku and Vegeta, but rather you're getting this because if you watch Dragon Ball Z, be like Piccolo literally picks up Gohan, drags him in the middle of nowhere, and trains him to fight with kicking the crap out of him the entire time. Where in this,
Except for the first 3 months where he pretty much abandoned him but watched him from afar.
that is true.
Yeah.
That is true. I totally forgot about that. But you have this
you're still
very,
there.
like you said, like grandpa-esque, he's training her. He's allowing her to, like, take the punch and take the hit, but he's being very guarded about her.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, be like, yeah, enough for training. Be like, oh, I want to learn how to do a key blast. It's like, well, we got to work on the fundamentals first. Like, he's being a good sensei. He's being a good teacher. And he's not, oh, Gohan, you didn't do this. Bam! So you find it be like, Piccolo has kind of aged. He's ripened as an Namekian, as a character. And I love that dynamic between those two characters throughout the entire course of this movie. And I've got something to say about what they do, what poor Piccolo does the poor Gohan in this movie. But I truly enjoy the quote unquote the grandfather-granddaughter dynamic between the two, and it's so fun. And the fact to be like, you have this little 3-year-old can kick the crap out of somebody, and it's okay. She's 3 years old and she pummels these guys. I'm like, how? It's like, oh yeah, she's got Saiyan blood in her, of course. But
Exactly.
yeah, I just love the dynamic. Love the dynamic.
Dallas, what's your second like?
My second like, and it's my big like, and this is a personal thing. We've mentioned Piccolo as Grandpa Piccolo, and we've kind of referred to him as the way he raised Gohan. But if you watch the Dragon Ball Z series, I mean, that really has shown the relationship there, and I love it so much. And because like in the original Cell Saga, he chose to wear Piccolo's gi.
Yeah.
He chose to represent Piccolo in the Cell Saga, even though and this is what I love about it, he defeated Cell using the Kamehameha, which was a great kind of back and forth the two. Now we flash forward to this series or this movie, and the whole thing is Piccolo's trying to go, hey, look, you need to operate in what you need to operate in. There's something more. You're laying dormant. You need to train. And Piccolo sees beyond what he is right now, and Gohan has a really cool moment where he awakens to a new level, to beast mode. and he goes beast mode in it. But the transformation of going beast mode, it was not so much. It was very akin to how his dad Goku first went Super Saiyan.
Yeah.
Seeing those love, so there's that transformation taking place. His transformation, I read somebody saying that the white hair and the red eyes is very akin to the way Toriyama originally drew Super Saiyan Goku in the original comics. It wasn't supposed to be blonde hair and green eyes.
Yeah.
Originally it was white and red.
Well, the part of the reason for the original, the reason why he's blonde, Super Saiyan as a blonde coloration, is because they wanted to lighten the hair color for Super Saiyan because they were tired of having to ink all those black lines for hair.
And that can get really annoying really fast.
Yeah. So they went with whites because literally you just draw the outline and you're done.
Yeah.
And when they went to the anime is when they made it, instead of white, being blonde, because it would stand out better.
Exactly.
At that time.
But you have all that taking place. But then at the end, when he's fighting, they go against Cell. He uses the Maseko beam, or the special beam cannon.
Yeah.
I love that so much.
Oh, that was so perfect.
I almost cried a little bit because it was such a this is the impartation of Piccolo in my life, and I'm using that to defeat Max Cell, if you will. And it was just a really cool, great moment to see take place on the screen and see how that played out and the emotions of it all. I just loved every bit of it.
So I don't want to correct you too much, but Masenko and Special Beam Cannon are actually two different attacks. The Japanese name for Special Beam Cannon is Makan. So I can't. I'm not even sure I can say it. Masa. I'm like Piccolo in Dragon Ball Z Abridged. Masan. Forget it. It's a longer name than the other one.
Special Beam Cannon.
It's why it's Special Beam Cannon over here, because we can't say Makan So Papo or whatever it is.
Makanako Sapo.
Either way, Special Beam Cannon. I still want to know how he's able to produce a drill beam.
I don't know, but it's really cool.
It was cool.
My second and I'm kind of jumping off of Dallas's here. I love the throwback to Piccolo's let's be honest, Piccolo Jr.'s first fight, because you can't just say Piccolo because there's two Piccolos.
Yes.
Right.
This isn't Great Demon King Piccolo. This is his son, Piccolo Jr. We just shortened it to Piccolo because, nobody watched original Dragon Ball. Apparently. They all watched Z. But I did read Dragon Ball, the original Dragon Ball. And so seeing Piccolo, even if he is doing this in his orange Piccolo form, seeing him actually grow to an enormous size, and then using his stretchy arm techniques too, it's like, why have you not been doing this entire time, Piccolo? Throughout all of Z, you've had this, you've kind of forgot it for a long time. But I enjoyed seeing that again, because the only other time we've seen the Namekians do that was in the movie Lord Slug.
Yes,
because Slug did it.
So I have a theory about that, because it was bothering me. And in the movie, he goes, "Oh yeah, I forgot I could do that." And Toriyama is known
Toriyama's notorious for forgetting things.
Like, he forgot whole characters. Like, the rereason why we don't see Launch is because he forgot she existed.
Exactly.
So I'm wondering if he just forgot that he could do that.
It wouldn't surprise me, because I remember on one of the other movies, we mentioned that, I think it might have been Battle of Gods. We mentioned that he forgot what Android 18 looked like and what color her hair was.
Oh, yeah.
Because he wanted to do it purple.
Right.
It's like, no, she's blonde.
It's like, yeah, it's purple, right? It's like, no, that's Trunks.
It's Trunks.
Right. Princess Trunks.
Terrible.
By the way, just so everyone knows, we are looking at Dragon Ball Z Abridged at some point, but it's going to be a bit.
Yeah, we got to get through Batman the Animated Series,
which is going to take us past into 2026, just as a forewarning.
Yeah. Didn't realize how long this series was, but hey, it's a fun ride.
It's worth it. We haven't had a bad episode yet.
Yeah.
So, Jacob, what is your second for this?
My second is the what makes a hero. What makes a hero? This entire dynamic of this movie, because you have Gamma 1, Gamma 2, who are fed all these lies. They're built upon these lies about Capsule Corp and the whole enchilada of the Red Ribbon Army, and you see their growth as heroes. Because they're first portrayed as a villain, or more like a quirky, like cartoony superhero type villain, and they start when they start that revelation that it's okay, they've been fed these false lies, they've been deceived, they've been duped, the creator has been duped, and they start coming around to the idea. It's like, oh, like, we're in the wrong, or you have this moment where someone is giving you that information that you have been fed and you've kind of lived and you've digged into. And I can't remember which one it was Gamma 1 or Gamma 2 that he's fighting Piccolo, and Piccolo is giving him that information. It's like, no, you're lying. And be like, no, this, because when you are when it comes to like cults or whatever, or you're under like a bad teacher or bad like a bad preacher or someone who's giving you false information, be like, it takes a long time to get out of that.
Yeah.
Be like, I wouldn't know personally, but what I've read and what I understand, be like, to get to a point of acceptance, be like, that you were wrong, or at least you were being led astray, as Scripture says very often in the later epistles, of like the wolves in the sheep clothing coming to devour you, and like this kind of reminded me of the fact that, be like, that we have, I don't know, be like, there might be people who listen to us or like might watch us or something like that. They might be like being deceived by somebody that's like, oh yeah, this is the truth. This is the truth. And like the idea of Gamma and, the Gammas and their creator, Hano, what's his name?
Hedo.
I was close. Hedo are being deceived by the Red Ribbon Army. And, it takes them, encountering and hearing truth from, Piccolo or like anybody else. And it's like, hey, what you're being told is a lie. And I love the fact that they realize the error, they realize what they're doing, and they turn around and they realize, oh, we have this bigger threat called Cell Max. And the beautiful part of it is that you have, what was it, Gamma 1 or 2 that sacrificed himself?
Gamma 2.
Yeah, Gamma 2 is the one who sacrificed himself.
Because it was Gamma 2 that attacked Piccolo at the beginning.
That's
also,
right.
So,
That's right. That makes sense. So, Gamma 1 makes the ultimate sacrifice of trying to destroy Cell Max, but obviously unsuccessful, but he's able to at least wound him in some capacity. But this idea that you go from, be like, you believe you're on the right side. You're on the right side of, I don't want to say history, but you're on the right side of the scales. And when you're given that revelation, you're given the truth of what really is going on. Be like, and then I think it's in Scripture, the scales are pulled away. The scales are taken away from your eyes that you can finally see. Like, I think it's Jesus when he's talking to the blind man. And he, like, wipes away the mud, the scales away from his eyes. And I thought that was kind of a beautiful analogy to what, Gamma 1 and Gamma 2 are kind of, their eyes are open to it. And they realize, these guys are the heroes, and what we've been accepted to is the bad guys. So I just really enjoyed that dynamic of, you have, oh, we're on the right side of justice, and you realize you're not. And they turn around and, do the right thing. You have ultimately one of them sacrifice themselves in order to save the world. And it was like, that's awesome. That's my second like.
Alrighty.
Love it.
So, Dallas, what is your first dislike for this film?
Dum dum dum.
My first dislike it's a minor one, but is on the front end. But the animation style was kind of tripping me out a little bit. I watched Broly, which you guys talked about last week with Nathan. Great episode, by the way, and you guys should go check it out. But in Broly, it didn't seem like the animation it was a little bit of. It felt like there was more. I mean, let's be honest. Most animation today is still CGI'd in some fashion.
Yeah, even 2D animation is CG, which that's fine.
But they incorporated a little bit more of the 3D, a little bit of 3D in Broly. This one was all like a lot of scenes felt like video game cutscenes, and it took a moment for me to get a feel for it. I got there, and by the end of the movie, I was groovy. But the front end, I was like, whoa, this is interesting. I wasn't quite expecting. In fact, Celeste, when she was watching with me, she goes, "Oh, I don't think I've ever seen this animation in this style before," and so it was interesting to see that take place.
I'm going to agree with you because this is actually one of my dislikes, and that is this art style in the more laid back dialogue scenes is very, like you said, cutscene-y. Like this should be in Dragon Ball Fighter Z. In fact, I am still 9/10 convinced all of these character models were made for Dragon Ball Fighter Z, at least the stuff of the returning characters. But while the fighting does the fighting scenes in this 3D do look amazing, do not get me wrong. Most of the dialogue scenes, it's very much, oh, we're watching a cutscene from a video game. Yeah. Is this one of those fan dubs I see on YouTube every once in a while where they take old cutscenes from video games and like do a bad lip reading of them? It's kind of what it feels like, even though it's not badly written. But I mean, there's other little bits like it actually affects one of the jokes early on in this film, and that's the fact that Carmine, he can't have his hair get messed up. Right. So the car that he's driving Magenta around in has this dome to give him room for his pompadour, right?
Right.
The problem is you don't even recognize there's a dome there for half the time you're seeing it because of the way that black that it lands in with those 3 dimensions, and when you do, it just looks stupid. I'm not gonna say it would have looked better in 2D, but I think it would have been more obvious with the blocking you normally do in a 2D animated anime that this is meant as a joke, and it's leaving the area for his hair. Like, the only reason I recognize that was not like a mistake or something was because Hedo mentioned it's not every day you see a car with a dome on it, with a dome over the driver or whatever. So, yeah, I'm not a big fan of the use of the 3D for the dialogue scenes. I'm fine with it during most of the action scenes, and if you could find some happy medium between the two, like the 2.5D stuff you see in like Spider-Verse or Spider-Verse Symbiote Trilogy, or Klaus is another one that came to mind. I think that would work, and that would look really good with Toriyama's art style, because that is the thing. As much as I also have been enjoying the Dragon Quest games, his art style in 3D looks very awkward, if we're being honest.
Fair.
Yeah.
So yeah, the 3D in the in dialogue scenes is definitely going to be my first dislike for this.
In animation world, it's been an interesting journey of them trying to do that, though, where they have that happy medium somewhere. I know that in on the Gundam Watch we reviewed Kukuru's Island, which is it's the movie version of a lost episode of Mobile Suit Gundam, and by lost I mean Tomino was like, I don't want anybody to ever see this again, and he banned it from being released because it was so bad. Like, just the most awkward animation. But they had some that was that modern, again, 2D CG animation, but they tried to mix in some 3D models, and there were a couple points where it was almost jarring because you're just now getting into the flow of the new style of animation, and then all of a sudden you have a 3D model on screen. You're like, oh gosh, like, where did that come from? And so it's been an awkward them trying to blend these things in the world today.
Yeah, I will say with Dragon Ball Daima, now that they've kind of gone back to a more 2D look to most of the scenes, when they do use 3D, it actually works very well. Right. So maybe they learned from this, not to go just full bore. I still blame a lot of the use of 3D, going full 3D on this on COVID, if we're being honest, because it was probably easier to produce this during that time like this, because of COVID, where you had to stay home, everyone had to stay home, and Japan stayed in lockdown far longer than we did. So, Jacob, what's your first dislike?
My first dislike, it's a very worn tactic of trying to provoke a character into doing something, and it's a classic trope. But the way they do it with Gohan in this film is, I'm like, really, Piccolo? It's like, okay, I understand you want to bring out the inner beast within Gohan. Because even though Gohan, even in Dragon Ball Z, was just like, he didn't want to fight. He wanted to go do something else. Like he's not a fighter. He's not a natural, he's not like his father in any fashion or form. So it's this, we are going to provoke Gohan to do this. And I understand you need to draw him out of his slumber, as you might call it. But the way they go about it by we're going to threaten to take your daughter. Oh, we're going to threaten to harm your daughter. Take something very precious and pure in your life and use that as a leverage to provoke that inner warrior Saiyan out of you. Be like, it's just more like, man, the guy just wants to study bugs. That's all he wants to do. Don't try to get the guy to fight. Even though, do not get me wrong, the fight scene in this movie is amazing. Do not get me wrong. This movie is fantastic. I'm just more like, poor Gohan.
It is interesting, though, considering he's studying bugs, when both his major victories are against the bugs. Cell and Cell Max, which are both insectoid.
They are.
Well, and boo. Hey, so I have a question on your thing. Is your complaint the fact that Pan was used as a chip by Piccolo to do this, or is it just the idea of using a child period as a story trope to draw it out? Is it the story trope, or is it the?
I agree with you on that. It's it's more of it's like you're using a child that you have that you're bestowed into taking care of, and you're using her in order to provoke her father to do something.
Well, I mean,
it does bother me a little bit.
I'm trying to figure out the way I want to say this. Would you have preferred it if the storyteller had just made it where she was put in danger and it came out of him, or is it rather than it's Piccolo trying to draw it out of Gohan, or just period?
It's more Piccolo trying to draw it out.
Okay.
Of him. Because I understand that's what Piccolo's be like. He wants Gohan to be like he sees that he's not training anymore or anything like that. He's focused on other things.
If I can jump in on that.
Yeah, go ahead.
Piccolo, as we've jokingly mentioned earlier, being grandpa to Pan,
right?
He is still in many ways a father figure for Gohan,
of course.
And what Piccolo is seeing of his, for lack of a better term, child, he is seeing a person who is not living up to their full potential, even though they could. Yes, he's happy that Gohan is able to do to succeed in this other method, but he knows that Gohan could, if he would just train a little, not even like training a lot, but just train more than he's currently doing, he could be so much more.
Yeah.
And I'm sure and granted, this is an overreaction.
Yes.
But because Piccolo could have taken out the Red Ribbon Army before Cell Max even woke up. I personally believe, but because Dragon Ball storytelling, things get pulled out a little,
of course.
But I say that, but the Red Ribbon Army is built up a lot in this, and like the only reason it doesn't get worse in this is because everyone evacuates so early on in this, when it's the Gammas versus the Z Warriors.
I think Piccolo could take them out if they didn't have Gamma 1 and 2.
Yeah.
If they with Gamma 1 and 2, he needed help. Completely.
He did.
And bear in mind, Goku did take out the Red Ribbon Army as a 12-year-old, like 3 decades before this.
That's true.
That's true. But it is Goku, so just.
I think Piccolo's issue though was it wasn't just a matter of he's tired of like Gohan just like not fighting. It's not a matter of like he's seeing Gohan as like he needs to be like Goku, who's always just like I want to fight the next person, just constantly. But it was more like
Gohan,
because he's looking at Gohan and Gohan's like, oh, I forgot I got to pick up my child.
Yeah.
And he's like, it's like
he's
responsibilities have been lost as he's pursuing this thing. So for him, he's like, the whole point of him training was not so much of being a fighter, but it was, I need you to be ready to care for your family.
Yeah.
It's not that Piccolo is against him studying bugs and working for the university and all this. It's like, you do that, but you've also got a responsibility to your granddaughter and everything to actually be there to protect her. You can't depend on me forever.
And I think some of that comes
And
because
they were depending on Piccolo for an inordinate amount of things.
They were.
and I think
Depending
some
about
of that
back in plushies he didn't want.
word. But didn't he? Anyways, but I think some of that also boils down to Piccolo's nature, because we have to remember that he is this current state of Piccolo. He is fused with Kame and Nails, both of them guardians, both of them who were tasked with caring for the greater Spence. And we've seen this take place where he's kind of taken on those things. He sees himself as, again, he said, I'm not King Piccolo anymore.
Yeah.
And as he's looking to Gohan, a young man that he's trained and he's raised up, almost a spiritual son type situation, he goes, you have the ability to be a guardian. I need you to guard. And your head's in a book, which is great. I'm glad you're studying, my cousins. And
Well, they're slugs, not insects, and I don't think it's connected, but sure.
so, but he's like, I need you to learn to guard because you're slacking. And if you're slacking too much,
you need to be taking care of your daughter, and I don't mind helping every once in a while is what he's thinking.
Yeah.
But y'all can't just be calling on me every day to take care of this while I'm also training her, while you're just inside reading a book, studying a book.
Yeah.
And so sure, that is part of Gohan's job, but that's not his only job. It's not his only responsibility.
Yeah.
now, I am with you on the trope of him going
say
like,
this as
hey, let me
geeks.
put Pan in the situation because I'm going to try to draw it out. Like, it was kind of shady, even though he understood that she was going to be safe. Like, I think he looked at Pan, he's like, she's tough, she's fine, she'll make it, no worries.
Well, if we're being honest, Pan was never in danger until Cell Max showed up.
Yeah.
And that's because everyone was in danger.
That is true.
I'm not gonna lie. I know we're not talking about likes anymore, but I died when she just sucker punched that one Red Ribbon Army dude.
Good night, yes.
The teacher's like, ah!
It's like, I don't know this man. Who is it? Like, oh, hi, Piccolo. Oh, I've sensed your energy. It's like, Pan is just perfect in this. Perfect. But
let's just face it, she's Panya. Pan as Anya. Anya as Pan.
Anya is Pan.
I don't exactly remember how Pan was at the end of Z.
Yeah.
Those last 4 episodes. I know this is not who she ends up being in GT.
No.
But less said about GT, the better.
Yeah.
Because you know what GT stands for? Goku time. Nobody gets to do anything in that thing but Goku.
But it's like, I think it was more the methodologies of, like, you use Pan in order to provoke Gohan, and I think it was like his methodology was a little bit off, but I understood where he was coming from. But it was like, dude, you're using your quote unquote granddaughter to get your son to get into a fight.
Yes. Now,
That's just all.
kudos to Gohan. When he learned Pan was in trouble,
Oh yeah.
he stepped up to the plate, he got done, and when he thought she was really getting hurt, and I don't think that's when he goes beast mode, but he does go into that.
He goes to Ultimate Gohan mode.
Yeah, the Ultimate Gohan,
Gohan.
where he's got Super Saiyan power, but at base level.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, it's the point where Gohan goes beast mode is when he realizes that Piccolo might not make it.
yeah.
Yeah. And everything
that
is
fear
lost.
is like, oh crap. Yeah, that
Anyway.
was my first dislike.
Dallas, what's your second dislike?
My second dislike. I found the storytelling. I appreciate all the flashbacks and everything, but the storytelling and setup of Hedo, for some reason, I was struggling to follow along. Like, is he a good guy? Is he not a good guy? You know,
I think he's supposed to be morally gray at the beginning of this.
Yeah.
and I get that, but it's just the way that they were explaining it to us in the front end. I was like, I feel like we could have done a better job somehow. Now, I appreciate, again, they're mapping out the family tree and they're giving us all these flashbacks in the history. It's a great entry point for people who have no concept of Dragon Ball or Dragon Ball Z even. But when they were setting up Hedo, again, I was like, are you a bad guy? And I think you're right. I think it was just supposed to be morally gray, but I feel like there could have been a better world building of his intentions and ambitions. Because at the end of it, he's like, I want to save the world. And you're at the front and you're like, do you though? Like,
Yeah, you're not good guy. You're not bad guy.
Hang on, I got to get into the voice.
Yeah, get to the voice.
Something about crushing a sparrow egg between men's thighs.
Yes.
I may be bad guy, but that does not mean I'm a bad guy.
There we go.
It's one of my favorite lines from Wreck-It Ralph.
Agreed. Oh my gosh.
Voice
Yes.
Space Zangief. But yeah. My second dislike for this film, I'm going to agree with you on it was questionable what Hedo was, if he was a good guy or a bad guy, if he was a good guy just being tricked into working for the villains. But when you get down to it, my biggest problem for this is they go into so much backstory. I'm not even sure most of it was necessary to tell this story. And it was told in a way that was confusing.
Yes.
I have watched this. I've watched this part of the original Dragon Ball, so I know about the Red Ribbon Army. And I've watched this part of Dragon Ball Z, so I know about that connection. And I have read the manga and gotten the whole. And I know the Red Ribbon Army frontwards and backwards. And I'm watching this, and I was confused about certain things. It's like I don't even know if Magenta was a bad guy for a bit in this, because it's like, yeah, he's trying to get the Red Ribbon Army up, but he is trying to get Hedo to follow along with him. I was like, well, are you a bad guy and are you a good guy who's about to make a lot of bad decisions?
Right.
And that's going to lead to the big fight at the end. That would have been allowed also. I think having a good Red Ribbon Army that's just making a lot of poor decisions would have been a fine way to go with this. But it's confusing if it's doing that or if it's like Red Ribbon Army, evil, trying to take over the world. But at the same time, it's just like I said, we don't know if Hedo's good or bad. Red Ribbon Army leaning bad, but I'm not sure. And you're going back and telling us. And then plus, if you have never watched Dragon Ball before, because of this film, if this film is your first experience with Dragon Ball or Dragon Ball Z or any of that, your first description of our heroes is this villainous organization that's trying to take over the world, complete with, and I do love this as a person who watches the series, I love that image of the Z Warriors in their evil faces with Bulma doing that whole
Evil
puppeteer thing, like Dr. Wily in Mega Man 6. I think it's Mega Man 6, maybe Mega Man 7.
Right.
And it's like, that's a funny image to me because it's like, that's not who these people are. But I love the dynamic. But if you've never watched it before and you got dragged to this film,
Yeah.
and you're trying to figure out all the stuff, the big first 15 minutes of this film have got to confuse you as to who any of these people are. Whether they're good or you don't, for all you know, Dr. Hedo being in that superhero garb and wanting superheroes and all that stuff, he may be a good guy. He may be the hero of this entire story. You don't know.
Right.
It's not explicit as to what's going on. It's not very clear. And I think that's really that's what I don't like. That's what I dislike, is that it's not clear who that backstory is not told in a very clear way that you understand that everything you're hearing from Magenta is wrong. You don't. Magenta's not even aware of, I think, most of Dragon Ball Super or the Boo fight. If we're being honest, when he's telling the backstory, he stops at Cell and he doesn't even know who beat Cell. Other than I think he knows he thinks it's Mr. Satan.
Right.
But
You never know.
yeah, it's like. It's because it's great to hear that from that other viewpoint as a fan of the series, but it's confusing, I think, if you're just coming into this fresh, never seen Dragon Ball before, don't know who these guys are, somehow you have not absorbed any of Dragon Ball by osmosis, because that can happen. But yeah, I think all that backstory at the beginning just confuses the situation before the story even gets started. So yeah, that's my second dislike, is the confusing backstories at the beginning of the film.
Fair.
Jacob?
So my second and final like. Now, granted, this
Dislike.
is the second dislike.
Yeah.
Right? Second
dislike.
Second. Okay.
You
got
said
it.
like. That's what I was correct.
Okay. Got it. Like. This. Okay. It is a dislike.
Yes.
Not a like, but a dislike. Okay.
So it's like I like, but it's not.
Yeah, something like that.
Anti-like.
Anti-like. Yeah, there we go. It's an
Like it.
anti-liking. There we go. Ow! Either or.
The dog is back in town. The dog is back in town.
Ow! Ow!
Okay, Jacob. Your second dislike for me, please.
All right, my disliking. Second disliking. Okay, so we have Pan. Pan is a cool little character at 3 years old. Be like, for the vast majority of all adults, we have all met 3-year-olds. We know what a 3-year-old is like. I have never met in my entire existence as an adult ever met a 3-year-old who is this articulate and is able to do all these amazing things at freaking 3 years old.
Have you
Now,
met
I understand
Gohan?
this is a nit.
Have you met Anya?
Have you met
Exactly.
Piccolo?
Well,
Yeah, Piccolo. He's
What?
He's 3 years old during the
Dragon Ball.
during his fight with Goku.
what?
Yeah, during the Piccolo Junior arc where he's fighting Goku and Goku beats him and finally becomes the world martial arts champion. Piccolo Junior is 3 years old.
But Piccolo's an Namekian. He's an alien. That's a different 3-year-old little girl to an alien Piccolo.
She is a 1/4 Saiyan.
Okay, 1/4 Saiyan. Okay.
Gohan was doing like calculus at 3.
Yes.
Okay, well, never mind.
We are talking about the daughter of Gohan.
Okay.
Who was,
Never
was
mind,
trying
then.
to.
Never
No,
mind,
no,
then.
I get what you're saying.
Yeah, I feel you.
She is very much a wunderkind character, and that can get annoying.
It's-
Her precociousness can get on your can get to you after.
Well,
a while.
it's not really that. It's more. It's okay because we've all met 3-year-olds and be like, she is a very articulate. Again, she is Gohan's daughter. I get that. It didn't dawn on me for a second. I was like, wait. It's like, oh yeah, Gohan, the genius fighter.
Yes.
It's like, oh, of course. But it was more. It's like to me, the rationalization. It was like, this is a 3-year-old. I'd be like, 3-year-olds don't talk like this. It's like, it's okay. Let's extrapolate what a little 3-year-old is and then throw a 9-year-old in it.
I'm going to be with you on this one in the fact that, and this is a common point I've had with Dragon Ball from the word go. When you figure out how old these characters are, it's like, could we not age them just a tiny bit, just a little bit?
If I may say this, I will repeat this as I've repeated, I think, throughout the rest of them. Canon in Dragon Ball is loose.
Yeah,
it is
true.
a comedy.
Very
It is an
loose.
action comedy manga. Akira Toriyama is a comedy writer by default. He was already rich off of the sales of Dr. Slump before he started Dragon Ball. So he knows how to write comedy, and that's his default writing mode.
Fair.
So of course he's basically, I just realized, basically Pan is Arale from Dr. Slump, the main character from that. I just realized that.
True.
Okay.
Very similar characters.
And it went right over my head with zing.
I'm gonna
anyway,
go with
anyway.
you. I'm gonna go with you on that one, Dre. Because I mean, basically, it's like the equivalent of like Pee Wee from Bebe's Kids. Like, did you guys watch Bebe's Kids?
I've watched the Nostalgia Critic review of Bebe's Kids.
I remember something about it, but I don't think I may have watched it, but I don't remember it.
It would not have been played in my house.
It's a core memory, but Tone Lock played Pee Wee, which is a child in a diaper, like a baby.
Oh,
and he's
yeah.
like, "What you got?"
Yeah.
Talking like a grown man because Tone Lock's
Well,
voice.
of things I have seen, even though this is a bit dirtier than what we're talking about, Stewie Griffin from
Okay. fair.
Family Guy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Granted, that's part of the joke. So
Yeah.
You do have to frame it in the fact that, because I'm with Jake on the fact that it's like, it's a 3-year-old. Why are we jumping in the middle of nowhere? But I mean, okay, it's a comedy. We need to not take it
Yeah.
so serious, I guess.
I got it.
Gohan was left in the wilderness at 4.
That is true. But they're like, I get it. Like, it's part of the Dragon Ball lore, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Because Gohan did the exact same thing, and just for me, it's more like
No,
kind of taking in reality.
Yeah.
it's like that wouldn't happen. But there again, it's an anime, it's a manga, it's Dragon Ball, so of course that's gonna happen.
Yeah.
So just for me, it was more like, okay, that's a slight nitpick, but still, it's fun. I enjoyed the character
Yeah.
of Pan in this movie. She's cool. She kicks people's butt at 3 years old.
Now, I will say, while Goku is obviously the odd man out in the genealogy, as in terms of intelligence,
Oh gosh, yes.
Don't forget, in the Ocean Group dub of Dragon Ball Z during the Saiyan saga, Vegeta did mention that Bardock was a brilliant scientist.
I forgot about that.
It's not in ours version of Z you can watch now, but in the original dub. Sorry, I just had to throw that out
I've
there
never seen something about that.
well, I mean, it's mentioned in Dragon Ball Z Abridged
Yeah,
too.
it is
So
mentioned in Bridge.
either way, that brings us to the end, I think, of
Yes.
this. We need to rate this film.
Can I give one last dislike?
Go right ahead.
That ending scene when Pan is like, watch, and she does the power up and she starts flying. Mm-hmm. I was disappointed she didn't go Super Saiyan right there.
That would have been cool.
That would have been cool.
Goten would have been able to do that at that
hysterical.
age.
Yeah.
It would have been like, because like, I remember when Trunks was like super young and he's just like, hey dad, watch. He's just bouncing. He just goes Super Saiyan. And Vegeta has an absolute like conniption, like a vein just pops out of his head. About,
When did the legend become a child's plaything?
I just wanted Pan to go, "Wah!"
It's like poop. It's like, hey, guess what, Vegeta? Pan did it even younger. The seed of your rival is stronger than you, the mighty prince of all Saiyans.
Piccolo's like, well, I guess he better teach you how to do some fireballs now.
Yeah. Princess Bulla hasn't done that yet, I bet. Oh. I still like thinking of her as the princess of all Saiyans.
I love the
Ever since I
fan-made
read that,
memes
ever
of
since
that.
I read those web comics of Princess Lessons with Vegeta.
Those are some of my favorite fan-made webcomics.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
They're so adorable and sweet.
So yeah, we do need to rate this film. Dallas, what are you rating this film?
Okay, so for me, rating the film, looking at it, I feel like it's a good jumping on point. I feel like you can bring people in who are not terribly familiar with Dragon Ball because of the amount of showing you what took place in the past. And they took you on a journey. They explained things. Probably could have done a little bit more of helping us understand the gravitas of Cell. Because I do feel like that was something that like we knew it was a big deal, but they didn't really explain the gravitas of that whole situation as well as I think they could have. But overall, it's not like, again, I feel like because it's all that, the action scenes were great. The fighting was exciting. You know, and I mean, I was transported to being a kid watching Dragon Ball again. And so I'm going to give this a pretty solid 8. I think this is going to be an 8 for me. It's not a perfect anime at all. Again, it had some of its flaws, minor stuff, but it was a lot of fun. And so, yeah. And boy, howdy, Beast Mode, Dadgum Gohan. How lit was that?
Yeah, that was amazing. That was
Although my first thought was, wow, when he finally gets his power, he looks a lot like Goku.
he does.
True story.
But it's his little
Genetics,
bouffon.
so yeah.
Yeah, he's got this massive bouffon right there.
That's his human hair.
Yeah, this is human.
Did you notice though he looks like kid version Super Saiyan 2 in that, like just
Kinda.
bigger?
Huh.
Yeah,
Like the
pretty
head- like,
much.
Yeah, he
The
does.
big hair and everything. It looked like that. And did he go Super Saiyan 2 in his cell fight?
Officially, I think because when he does that power up,
Yeah, he does go
Yeah.
Super Saiyan
well,
2.
you know, the famous one where you can see him crying and then the tears evaporate. That's him he goes Super Saiyan 2, I think, at that point, but they just never talk about it.
I wonder if they did that on purpose, where they made him look like that for that fight.
Could
Probably
be.
did.
It very could be.
Maybe
I
more
know-
aesthetically.
I mean, when you get right down to it, this is basically his form of Ultra Instinct that Goku got.
Oh, totally.
And in the manga, Ultra Ego Vegeta. We still haven't got that in the anime yet, but I am actually going to rate this a 7, and I'm going to tell you that a lot of that is Pan. Not that the fights were bad. I love the fights. The fights are what are like bringing it up the next couple of points. But yeah, my biggest issue is still going to be that animation with during the dialogue scenes. I just don't think it works very well in a movie framework. As a video game, I would live with it, but in a movie framework, it throws me, and I'm glad that they, at least for Dragon Ball Daima, they moved away from that. But yeah, I'm going to give it a 7.
Okay. For me, I'm going to give it an 8. I really enjoyed this movie. I love the approach they did because, again, they don't hyper focus on Goku and Vegeta because I kind of got a little ragged on the last episode because I kept calling Vegeta Fajita the entire time. So it's like I got so it's Vegeta.
I feel like Fajita should be Vegeta with a sombrero.
But it's like, yeah, I love the dynamic of Piccolo and Pan, then you have Gohan, and it focuses on all the other characters where Vegeta and Goku are in the background. They're secondary characters. They're just fighting and sparring.
I mean, literally, the only reason we have a scene with them is because you can't have a Dragon Ball movie and not say, hey, we're Goku and Vegeta right now.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, like, I really enjoy this movie. It's like, it's not as good, to me personally, it's not as good as Super Broly, but it's still an incredibly well-done film. And sadly, we no longer have Toriyama to
unfortunately.
Unfortunately, but we don't know what he had down the line, so he may have written something, and they might base it off something else.
So we know Dragon Ball Daima was the last Dragon Ball thing he actually worked on. I don't know how much of the story of Daima he wrote or how long Daima's actually going to be, but I do know that's the last thing he worked on. So I mean, we do have at least a couple more Toriyama stories coming.
Yeah. So. But overall, this is a really good, very good story. And I was pleasantly surprised the second time watching it, because I think the first time I was a little put back, like Dallas said, kind of brushed by the change in animation dynamic. So yeah, I'm giving it a 8.5. I had to look at my notes because I forgot.
Right.
I feel like Toriyama. What was it again?
And that brings us to the end of this episode. Normally at this point, I would tell you what our next movie is, but I'm going to save our next episode preview until after Batman. That's a teaser, folks. So why don't we go ahead and play some intermission and we'll talk about some Batman.
This podcast is a proud member of Culture Box. Whether you enjoy geeky reviews, comedy, or original fiction, you can open up the Culture Box and find something excellent for your soul. Point your web browser to culturebox.media.
This week, we suggest checking out Geek Devotions.
Hey!
Geek Devotions is a collaboration of devoted geeks that are devoted to letting people know that they are loved. They produce a weekly geek culture infused devotional, their podcast, Talk, and written articles, all designed to encourage and challenge people in the geek community, bridging the gap between their faith and their geekdoms. You can find all of their content at geekdevotions.com. The Cellcast would also like to thank the following patrons: Ashley and Francisco Ruiz, thanks Roy, PaulJPowers.com, The Monster Island Film Vault, and Edwin Gonzalez. If you would like to have your name shouted out on the show, some special art from Jacob, uncut episodes, or for an additional $5 on top of the normal price, you can force us, within reason, to review a film of your choice. And you might even be able to guest host on the episode if you wish. So go do that. One of our spots is already filled for this year. So keep that in mind. Also, go check out our Redbubble store. Links in the description. And you can find nice shirts such as this one I'm wearing right here. Our Dragonuary shirt. We've also got one for Ghibli Month from a couple weeks back, and of course our standard logo and Team Lasagna and Team Kibble shirts. So go check out those. Go check those out. Have you word that.
I am vengeance. I am the night. I am Batman. 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 There is a song the good folks sing.
Song the good folks sing.
In the great hall of the Justice League.
I knew I was in the room with a bunch of jokers.
Ain't I a stinker?
Our first episode tonight, See No Evil. Production order number 15, broadcast order number 56.
Yeah, a little bit weird.
Oh, we'll get to that.
Yeah.
It first aired on February 24th, 1993. It was directed by Dan Reba and written by Martin Pasco. In this episode, a convict named Lloyd Ventrix comes into possession of a fabric that can render him invisible. He uses this ability to steal, running afoul of Batman, but his more sinister motive is to kidnap his young daughter from her mother's custody by posing as her imaginary friend, Mojo. New cast for this episode, we got Richard Erdman playing Elliot, Danny Goldman playing Sam Goodell, Michael Gross as Lloyd Ventrix, Ken Howard as Harkness, Elizabeth Moss as Kimmy, Chuck Olson as security guard, Brock Peters as Fox, and Jean Smart as Helen. Trivia for this episode. 27 years after this episode aired, the voice actress for Kimmy, the little girl, Elizabeth Moss, would star in the film The Invisible Man in 2020. Kimmy's mother, Helen, shares a similar arc to Moss's character, Cecilia, in that she's trying to get away from her abusive invisibility suit-clad husband. Bruce Timm noted that An Invisible Man works really well in animation, even better than it would in live action. We have total control over the scene. We can do things that would take, this is his words, take zillions of dollars to do in live action.
Fair.
In an earlier draft of the script, Kimmy was going to be dragged along during the final chase scene, and the invisibility suit was in danger of exploding before Batman could save her. The storyline was scrapped because of censorship rules against showing endangerment to children.
That's fair.
Yeah.
Originally, this episode's production number was assigned to a different episode entitled The Count and the Countess. Bruce Timm sent it to a Japanese studio for complete pre-production work as an experiment. He thought it would free up the in-house staff's time for better shows. The overseas studio took months to produce even character designs and a partial storyboard, and those were drawn in a style too off-model to be usable. Production on the first season was nearing an end, and with a troubled script and unacceptable pre-production work, that episode was killed. With this episode was completed, the 57th or 58th show finished, it was assigned the lower production number left empty. So yeah, this is technically out of order a little bit. I will give you that. By like 40 episodes. The material being cited as having an effect on a person's sanity is likely a reference to the Invisible Man, who himself went insane due to a chemical he used in his formula. And lastly, in the opening scene, the 7 o'clock movie shown on the Galaxy Drive-In's marquee is actually The Invisible Man. However, some of the letters are missing, so it reads, "The N is Blee Ma."
They weren't missing. They were invisible, Drew. Get it right.
Yeah, exactly.
I should know this. What are y'all's guys' thoughts on this episode? Dallas, why don't you start?
First off, let me just say I'm thankful that you guys have brought me on to do this, because I'm always pleasantly surprised at the quality of storytelling, the type of storytelling that goes into Batman animated series, the depth of what's at stake here. At the core of this at stake is a man who has lost everything and has gone insane for various reasons. We're dealing with divorce. We're dealing with a potentially abusive situation. We're dealing with child kidnapping. This is some heavy stuff, yet this is a kid's show. And so, but the way it's handled in a way that kids can handle it pretty well. Adults can sit in the room, watch it. And I just really appreciate that whole situation that's taking place. And it's heavy. Like you almost feel bad for the guy, but then you realize, no, he's crazy.
Yeah, agreed.
It's and then like the misdirection of things. So going, well, even though we know who the guy is, but connecting the dots of how we get here was interesting.
Agreed.
And I also appreciated Tim's talking about the dealing with the invisibility stuff. Like, I found it really interesting, like the scene where like his mask is off and you see just the floating head.
Oh yeah.
But the way that it was like, I guarantee what happened is when they were drawing it, because this is back then when you drew every panel, they drew the whole body.
Yeah.
And then just erased the body, and it worked well.
Oh yeah.
Because it didn't feel like it was just out of place. So those are my thoughts.
This is still granted, I don't know if there are bad episodes of Batman the Animated Series. I'll be honest. I will say I think this was one of the weaker ones. And I guess it's just because, I don't know, the story didn't resonate with me. Or it could just be the fact that we found out the imaginary friend's name is Mojo, and I kept thinking, are we going to see a monkey show up? Mojo Jojo.
I kept thinking the exact same thing.
So that admittedly threw me a little bit. And plus, I was looking forward to the next episode on our list, which we'll get to in a minute. Yeah. But yeah, this was a good episode for what it was. I just don't think it resonated with me. I did love the fact that apparently Bruce Wayne has his Batman costume apparently where he can easily get to it, even though he doesn't look like he's carrying anything. And I do feel bad for that security guard who could never get into the bathroom.
Poor man. I know. We all know what that feels like. It's like, man, I really got to go. People, stop locking the door.
Well, I mean, as soon as he opened that door, he peed.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I guarantee it.
If nothing else.
You see
drop trousers, go.
You see that door open and Batman's just standing there and goes,
or the moment where it was like Batman slams the door open, takes the poor guard out, and it's just like, well, I'm here. It's like,
I bet you don't have to go anymore.
I'm not cleaning that up.
Speaking of people going, what? How about the construction dude? When Batman first walks out, he's like, where are you? And the guy's just like,
I'm eating his cheeseburger. What I do?
He's like, yo, Batman's lost it finally. I knew he was always a little crazy with that cape.
Where's my camcorder?
I mean, they've always said that criminals are a superstitious and cowardly lot. I didn't know. I know people think Batman is a criminal because he's a vigilante. I didn't know it affected him too.
He's gone cuckoo for Batos.
Batos.
First thing that came to mind.
Fair
Either
enough.
or. Oh my gosh.
Lord.
No. It's Batman, so it would be Bat Loops.
Bat Loops. There we go. That will. Or as my wife would say, Lord, give me straight. Lord, give me straight. Deal with me half the day. But I absolutely adored this episode. The amount of animation they had to do to get this the invisible character to be invisible the entire time he's on screen, and just the footprints, the way the scene that got me the most is when Mojo comes into Kimmy's room and he puts the necklace around her neck. Be like that animation where it flows around her hair onto her shoulder, onto her neck, her teeny little neck. And I'm like, whoa, this is incredible. And throughout the entire episode, it's just beautiful. And there's little bits here or there. It gets a little crunchy, but they use so many dynamic posing for Batman. He would show up and he just like, they use kind of a Dutch angle or any kind of like, it is so beautiful. But like, to think this was like a movie, like this was part of the earlier episode, and you see where like either they put a lot of time in like figuring out where to put the camera within the digital the animation frame to give all these amazing shots where it's Batman, he's looking at something, it's maybe it's the way his head is cocked or something like that. It's just like, whoa, okay, this is awesome. Like he's like bowed up or something like that. It's amazing. But the story itself of a man who is who's a criminal is going to literally kidnap his own daughter to, take revenge upon his ex-wife. Like he's not allowed to see her, and so he creates this character of Mojo to where he can go see her, and it's just like you feel bad for the guy, but he's a criminal. He's a criminal. He's gonna get busted. But you kind of, it'd be like you have sympathy for him in a way, but then it's just more like, okay, you are a criminal. Yeah, be like you are doing wrong.
When you see the extent of what he does,
yeah,
the front end, it looks like just a tragic.
Yeah, it does.
divorced family.
Well, and it
then-
is to a degree that it's just the fact that he goes and takes that, steals that cloth, and that cloth is driving him insane due to the chemicals. And
Yes. But that whole scene and this is where the switch though is, where you have the whole scene where he's interacting with the wife in the shopping center, and we know he's erratic because with the chemicals and stuff. Yeah, but there's established history already that he is not a safe individual. And that there's something that he did or was wrong. We know who's a criminal beforehand. This then goes into a story of a woman trying to protect her child from a potentially abusive father figure or some sort.
Yeah.
I do like that interaction where he is like, he's trying to show that his ex-wife to be like, look at what I've done, be like, I have done this, trying to prove that how successful he is. And she knows he's a con artist. He knows be like he's a wolf in sheep's clothing. She knows exactly who he is. But he's trying to prove that he is, be like, I'm a better man because look the way I'm dressed. Look at this, because he's all about appearance. It's not about the interior change of who he is, because he has no intention of changing who he is. But he wants to prove that his ex-wife, be like, look at me, be like, I'm upright. I can pay for everything you are because I stole stuff. I'm not going to tell you that, but you know that. And she wants nothing to do with him.
I do have one question.
Yes.
We see him give Kimmy 2 pieces of jewelry. I'm assuming these aren't the first 2 pieces of jewelry he's giving Kimmy.
Probably not.
What is she doing with those pieces of jewelry? And does
kinda
Mama
wondering
ever
the
find
same
them?
thing.
Yeah, that is a very
like, she's wearing this expensive necklace. I mean, and Mom walks and she sees that. I mean, surely
she was
Mom knows.
wearing that necklace when Mama came in the room.
Yeah.
Why is she not bringing that up? Where did you get that from?
Yeah. It's like, oh, it's my friend Mojo. Be like, and obviously Mom thinks Mojo is just an imaginary friend.
Yeah,
but
right.
at the same time, it's like, shouldn't it clue you in that someone's coming into your daughter's room?
Exactly.
Like stranger danger. Be like, obviously when Kimmy realized, be like, oh, Mojo's actually a man. It's like she has that, oh, I've got to get away from this guy.
Yeah.
And realize, oh, it's her father. I need to get really further away from him.
Right.
But
why she hasn't moved to Metropolis yet, we'll never know.
Yeah, that's true.
I assume that's where she's moving.
But I do be like,
maybe she's going to Smallville.
That's true. Just watch out for the meteorites. But I was thinking about
Kimmy
this.
might get a brother.
Oh my gosh.
I'm sorry.
No, but we look at when we first we get the exterior shot of their house, and it's not in the best place in the world. It's kind of in the slums or something like that. But it's a mother trying to forge a life out of like being a grocery clerk or something like that, and trying her best. She's not going down the road her ex-husband is, who went to prison for an X number of time, and she's trying to do everything on the straight and narrow.
Right.
And that is applaudable for anybody who is trying to do something. I mean, like that is, I guess you would use the word noble. That they're just they're trying to do the right thing. Like, even though they're not living it up. Like the father or the ex-husband who thinks everything's about power and wealth and prestige, where the mother's just trying to take care of her little girl.
Yeah.
And I show that. I love that little contrast. It's great. So I think it's it's a great episode. And I think even Artsy Steph mentioned it like one of those defined episodes in your childhood.
Just because it's not one of my favorites, don't take me wrong. It's a good episode.
Yeah, it's a great episode.
I think it just didn't hit me like it hit y'all.
Fair. Yeah. That is fair. Now let's get into
let's get into the meat potatoes that were completely unplanned, but was a nice coincidence.
Yes.
Or providence, depending on how you look at it. Beware the Gray Ghost.
Yes.
Where?
Production episode number 18, broadcast episode number 32. First aired November 4th, 1992, was directed by Boyd Kirkland and written by Garen Wolfe and Tom Ruger. In this episode, Gotham City is struck by a series of remote-activated bombings as a warning to a ransom demand. Batman realizes that the pattern of the recent bombings is based on an episode of an old television show featuring his favorite boyhood hero, the Gray Ghost. Seeking information, Batman visits the actor who played the TV hero, Simon Trent. Cast for this episode: Joe Leahy playing the Gray Ghost narrator. Bruce Timm, yes, that Bruce Timm, the direct producer of this show, played the Mad Bomber / Ted Dimer.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Awesome.
Jeff Bennett played the video owner, and of course, the Gray Ghost / Simon Trent was played by none other than Adam West, the star of 1966's Batman television series in color.
In color.
That's how it's credited at the opening of those episodes.
Okay.
Batman in color. Trivia for this episode: the character of Simon Trent, who played the Gray Ghost on the old TV show, is voiced by Adam West, as I said, who played Batman in 1966. The plight of character Simon Trent is a close parallel to real-life actor Al Hodge, who starred in the popular 1950s TV show Captain Video and His Video Rangers, 1949, but died in 1979 in both poverty and obscurity. Interestingly enough, Bob Hastings, who plays Commissioner Gordon, his younger brother Don Hastings played Captain Video's sidekick, the Video Ranger, on the series.
Huh.
Supposedly, when he was done with the episode, Paul Dini and Bruce Timm handed Adam West, instead of scale wage, a $25,000 check and the original 1966 Batman costume, which Dini bought for an undisclosed sum at an auction.
Wow.
Whoa.
In the last shot of Batman and the Gray Ghost, their silhouettes are seen by the flames, the flames reflect each other. Ted Dimer, the Yester Toy shop owner, like I said, was voiced by animator producer Bruce Timm, and based on Timm's look as well.
That makes sense.
Had Adam West not agreed to voice Simon Trent, aka the Gray Ghost, the entire episode would have been scrapped. They wouldn't have made it at all.
Oh, wow. So they were literally banking on him doing this episode. Wow.
When Simon Trent opens his closet to retrieve a reel of an episode of The Gray Ghost, one of the film canisters is labeled Dr. Death. The character Dr. Death was the first ever reoccurring villain in the Batman comics.
Oh, right.
Another episode is titled Terror in the Sky, which went on to become the title of an episode. And there's another episode entitled Gray Ghost Returns, an obvious reference to the comic book The Dark Knight Returns and the film Batman Returns 1992. In this episode, we learn that Batman designed the layout of the Batcave to be an exact replica of the Gray Ghost's lair. The Gray Ghost is based on pulp magazine hero The Shadow and the Golden Age superheroes The Sandman and the Spirit.
Yes.
In Simon Trent's apartment, a Gray Ghost poster shows a giant version of the hero bearing a gun as he stands above skyscrapers. This is an homage to the Shadow pulp comic Shadowed Millions, which had a similar image for its cover. The gun may also be a possible tribute to the early Batman comics, where he did in fact use and carry a gun. For all of you who say Batman doesn't use guns. At the end of the episode, a picture of Matt Hagen can be seen advertising him as the Man of a Million Faces. In the comics, Hagen is Batman's enemy Clayface, and Hagen's appearance foreshadows his mutation into Clayface.
Ooh, that's a good one.
The video store clerk resembles Batman the Animated Series writer Paul Dini, who was at the time overweight. He has since lost weight, reportedly after seeing his obesity satirized in an episode of Tiny Toon Adventures.
Ooh,
oh, wow.
Yeah, that'll galvanize somebody to do something.
The poster at the end of the episode, which is a cover of People magazine, has the date of October 19th, 1992, the date the episode first aired. And much of the music from this episode, including the Gray Ghost theme, is inspired by the soundtrack of the Superman cartoons from the 1940s.
Oh, okay.
And I also want to mention that there is an interesting prediction, or not, what's the word I'm looking for? Prophesying? I don't know the word. Basically, there's a moment in this that actually foreshadows Blu-ray movies box sets.
Facts.
Oh, okay, gotcha. Okay.
Because at the end, you know, Bruce Wayne is getting his copy of what I assume is the entirety of the Grey Ghost television series signed by Simon Trent. That thing is about the size of a book that looks suspiciously an awful lot like most of the box sets of a television series I've bought over the years. And it even has a blue strip at the top, making it look like it's a Blu-ray in 1992.
Yeah.
Strange coincidence.
Right.
However, I will admit, I can't complain about Bruce Wayne buying that because I, too, buy my Adam West television series in Blu-ray.
I was
facts.
wondering why that was missing.
Yeah, it's because it was over here. Yeah, I do have, this is the entire series collector set I don't think you can get anymore. It's got a lot of cool stuff in here. Anyway.
It does.
And that's what I've got for this one. What are y'all's thoughts on this episode?
This
It was okay.
it was okay.
Okay.
Get out of here. What the crap? What?
I am being reminded of your initial reaction to Chicken Run, Jacob.
Oh yeah, that's true.
What are your thoughts, Dallas?
No, I need to know what happened at Chicken Run. Hold on, we're gonna pause the show right now. What happened with Chicken Run?
No. When we started that episode, and I get to the part, you know, where I say, Jacob, what are your what are your thoughts on this episode? Or no, it was the spoiler-free thoughts.
Spoiler-free thoughts.
And you said, oh, it was okay. I go, no, that's not what you said.
No, I
You
didn't.
said, I hated this movie. It was horrible.
wow.
It was garbage. And I'm going, you wanted to bring, you bring that garbage into my house.
An alternate
gosh, I
timeline, the
love ribbing
Cellcast
him
ended
sometimes,
right
so
there and then. There was no more episodes after that.
Yeah.
Well, here's the thing. I will admit, I give Jacob some grace when it comes to these things. Because on a previous podcast we were on for a short time, he has the audacity
Oh gosh, here we go.
to tell me he doesn't like the film Galaxy Quest.
Oh,
Because, and I quote, it takes itself too seriously.
Why so serious?
As a comedy, it takes itself too seriously. And I'm going, that's the point!
I didn't get the film. Okay, I have to go back and
That's fair.
rewatch.
It's not your style of comedy.
Yeah, exactly.
Admittedly.
We will.
So because of that, and because I know my co-host, as I do give him grace when it comes to him not liking things that are obviously some of the greatest work to films that have ever graced television or graced the silver screen.
Oh my god.
I may have an opinion if you can't tell.
No, of course not. I guess we will have to revisit Galaxy Quest on a Cellcast Plus episode
At some point,
at some point.
but not now.
Not now.
Dallas, what are your thoughts on the Grey Ghost?
I love this episode so much. Now, for context, I understood the references when I was a kid because as a kid, I watched the original Adam West Batman. So I understood the callback to that whole aspect, and I recognized the voice. I didn't know the name. I just recognized the voice. But also, as a kid, my mom introduced me to The Shadow.
Yes.
The audio dramas. I remember distinctly her going down to the library, and she got a whole bunch, like you could rent a whole book of cassette tapes of the original The Shadow. And in hindsight, I realized there was a snowstorm coming and we were going to be locked in. And so it was
got to keep everyone entertained.
It was a way to entertain us if we lost power, and we just listened to it anyways. And so I fell in love with The Shadow, and so this episode hit me on so many points as a child, and as an adult, it still kind of lights up inside of me, like this cool little moment here. I love it when there's all these points that come together of the Superman connection, because I grew up on the original Superman TV show with Reeves in it, not Christopher Reeves.
The movies.
The original Reeves.
Yeah, the first two movies.
The TV show Reeves.
Oh, that's not Christopher Reeves. That's
Matt Reeves.
No,
That's the director. That
it's a Reeves, but I can't remember the first name.
Yeah.
It's almost like the old shorts. These movie shorts.
But I grew up on those shows, and I grew up on the Shadow. George Reeves. Thanks, Paul J. Powers.
Yes, thank you. Thanks, Paul.
I grew up on the Shadow. I grew up on Superman. All those things. So for me, as a child, this hit hard, and then as an adult, it still does. And I want to put this out there. There's this great moment where you see Bruce sitting down with a ball of popcorn, and he's watching, and you see this, like, they illustrate this moment of him just being transported. And what I love is that perfectly illustrates, and I think that Tim and his team did this on purpose, because for them, it's what they experienced when they were going back to the stuff. But if you go back and watch something that you grew up on that was nostalgic, that had an impact, it takes you back in the exact same moment. And so for me, for everybody who are hardcore Batman fans, we're experiencing that moment with Bruce in that moment, because we have this every time we watch the shows. So I love this on plethora of levels. From artistic point of view, it was just, I felt like this was the most Gotham that things could have been.
Agreed.
There was a lot of feeling of the grittiness of the 1989 Batman within it. And then the story was fun. It was a cool story that was taking place here. And I love the simplicity of everything, you know? And so, yeah, those are my thoughts. Minor, small things. It was all right. It was an okay episode.
I loved, of course, Batman the Animated Series back when it came on. It was one of my favorite shows. I mean, if we're being honest, a part of me thought it paled in comparison to Darkwing Duck, but that's because I loved Darkwing Duck as a kid, which is just a parody of Batman the Animated Series, if we're being honest.
True.
And James Bond.
Yes. But I know I watched a lot of episodes of Batman the Animated Series. Statistically, I had to have seen this episode at least once. But to my knowledge, this is actually the first time I've watched this episode.
Whoa!
To my knowledge.
Welcome, sir. How are you doing today? How have you
not functioned up
I've
this
never
your
talked
life?
to somebody who's never seen this. And I really want to know how this works for you.
I am not saying I've never seen it, because I have flashes of stuff. But it's I may have seen this episode once or twice, and I definitely at the time did not make the connection to Adam West.
Fair.
I had seen the Adam West. I'd watched the Adam West movie a ton of times as a kid. I watched it enough that when I go back and watch the movie now, the fact that it doesn't break into commercials, specific commercials at some points, throws me. Okay, that's how much
fair.
because it was recorded off VHS off the Family Channel. Not ABC Family, not Fox Family, the Family Channel. Wow. Same channel, but different era. Just giving you an idea. In fact, ironically, Zorro was actually one of the commercials that played during that.
Oh, lit.
So, also, I do know that, my grandparents used to live in Kansas. And there was one time me and Mama were making the trip to go visit. And we stopped in Oklahoma City at a Cracker Barrel for breakfast, because we left super early. And this was one of the first times we'd ever stopped at a Cracker Barrel for anything. And, Cracker Barrel used to sell those old radio dramas on audio cassette, giving you an idea of the time period we're talking about here. And what my mama wanted to show me was the Green Hornet, because Green Hornet was her superhero as a kid.
That's a good one.
From the same television, from the same era television show as Batman 66.
Right.
Is what she watched. But unfortunately, they were out of that, so she went with her second choice, The Shadow.
Yes.
Which is basically Batman.
Yes.
And so, yeah, on the rest of the trip, on the way up there to Kansas, we listened to The Shadow on the way, and I actually still have a bunch of those cassettes, and I think I even got them recorded to CD, burned to CD. I need to get them transferred to digital before that becomes an impossibility. But yeah, so I had a lot of connections to this, and the fact that this is one of those episodes I initially learned about around the same time I initially found out that Luke Skywalker was the voice of the Joker. Okay.
Oh.
For whatever reason, Batman the Animated Series, as much as I loved it as a kid, it just was not, after a certain point in time, it just was not on my radar.
That's
Granted,
fair.
at the time it fell off my radar, Superman was on my radar, that show. And then after And then after that, Justice League. And then after that, I was a teenager and was too busy to watch a lot of television. And then anime. Give me some grace, I request.
It's all good. It's all
So
good.
I'm coming. I first was getting knowledge of the show back in like coming back to knowledge of the show in like 2011,
Okay.
2010, somewhere in there. But I didn't have a good way to watch it. I did buy the first season DVD box set, but for whatever reason, just never got around to watching it. Except for On Leather Wings. I saw that episode once when I first got the set and put that in, then I got busy. Either way. So I knew this episode was out there, and it was one of those in the back of my mind. I need to watch that episode. I need to watch that episode. Above every other episode, I need to watch this one. And it took until this week for me to finally get around to watching this episode. And I have to tell you, I am just awed and amazed at this episode. Because for one thing, this kind of shows you that Bruce Wayne is one of us. He's a geek. He loves this hero story from when he was a kid. And the fact that he goes out, not only does he recognize that this is connected to that old show, upon realizing it and upon looking up on the actor who played the hero, and found out that the actor who played the hero has sold all of his memorabilia, goes and buys it and somehow gets it sneaked back into his apartment while the guy's taking a nap. Batman. And puts it all back where it goes, by the way.
Right.
Because Simon is not like perturbed at all. The fact that, wow, this is all back where I had it before I started collecting it back up.
Batman walked in, he looked at it, and he went, Trenton gun.
Yeah, pretty much. Right there. So
Stay asleep.
and so he actually has this geek out moment where he's meeting Simon Trent and has apparently forgotten, oh yeah, the actor is not the character.
Yeah.
Something we all have to remember when we're seeing these people. But I have to imagine this would have been like if I had met Jason David Frank as an adult.
Yeah.
That would be the equivalent for me.
Fair.
I can see that.
Yeah. Which I never did, unfortunately. I was a week out. Like I could have met him and Tyler, and then like it was a week after that Jason David Frank passed.
Yeah, that's right.
So that annoys me that I didn't know that was coming, but that's beside the point. But I was like, I got that, and yeah, and I just love the way how he was able to give life back to basically his hero, or at least the closest thing to his hero that he actually had, which was the actor who played him, and actually got him into it, like, because he was his only, because there was no other way Bruce could actually watch the episode in question without going to him. And even then, he still needed Simon, even though he did watch the episode, he still needed Simon's expertise to figure out what was going on, because there were clues that even watching that episode doesn't tell him. So I appreciated the fact that not only did he help his hero, or the actor who played his hero, as financially, he also gave him the courage and the strength to, even though he could not pursue acting, he could at least be who he was for other people, and ultimately him getting that collection out to someone who could do a restoration and put it on whatever format that actually is. In 1992, that's obviously a lot smaller than VHS.
It wasn't a laser disc.
It wasn't a laser disc, no. And if that is something slower than SLP VHS, good night. That's not going to be good video quality.
To be fair, the dating of Batman is a bit ambiguous. I know they put 1992, but it's always been like futuristic, but also
noir,
like 1940s.
It's both 30s and 90s and 80s all at once, and 60s if we're being honest, all at once. I mean, we've had Bruce Wayne driving around in a car that was canceled in the that went out of business in the 30s. The kid from I've Got Batman in My Basement had a very fancy bike from the 1930s.
Yes.
And yet this is taking place in 1992. So yeah, it is ambiguous, but I just love how this was not just this episode is a love letter to Batman fans, period.
Oh, totally.
Agreed.
At a time when I had to feel like even the fans of the 60s Batman films who maybe didn't get into the Tim Burton era films may have been starting to feel left out.
Right.
As like, we're going to bring your friend back because I mean, let's face it, Batman the Animated Series is an amalgamation of the Tim Burton era and the Adam West era, in my opinion.
I give you that.
And then writing it so much better than both of those ever did. So, yeah, I just love how this love letter to the fans of Batman. So, Jacob, your thoughts?
This is an absolutely stunning episode. The fact that you have Batman who is inspired by a television character that kind of inspired him to become Batman in some capacity is an actor who's down on his luck. He's out on rent. He's having to sell his memorabilia in order to survive. Like, it's the kind of the crescendo of like what, like, kind of, I don't want to say washed out actors or actors who are down on their luck and they can't get jobs, are forced to sell their prized possessions of their career. I think even in the episode they say that it's like that people just see him as the gray ghost, and we don't know when the gray ghost, like, this is when he was a kid, when it's like, yeah, it's an the fact that, like, it gives life to an actor who is down on his luck, that it kind of springboard both of them in a way, because what the Grey Ghost did for Bruce as a child catapulted him in some capacity to become the Batman, and what Batman did to Trent kind of compelled him to kind of a revitalization somewhat in his career, somewhat. And I really enjoy that aspect of it, because it's the nice twist that it's the toy collector who's using all these collectibles to make himself rich, or the obsession of toys and wealth.
This is also reminding me of a Powerpuff Girls episode.
Oh, okay. Oh my gosh.
Where the evil collector has collected everything Powerpuff Girls related, but has nothing else to collect, so he kidnaps the girls and puts them in packages.
Wow.
Oh my gosh.
And it's the other kids and Professor Utonium who find the girls and pretty much like destroys all this guy's collector's value by opening all the packages to defeat him.
That is funny. That is so funny. But the question that came to mind watching this episode and afterwards is, okay, so Trent, the video collector tells Bruce that there are no copies of this remaining, because the negatives were lost in a fire and there's just none of it left, and the only ones available Trent have. So this guy, thankfully, so he's been selling all of his memorabilia. I don't know if he's aware of the rarity of the show, but by the end of the show, be like, he has sold those negatives, he sold the reels, and if we're taking more like maybe a 90s aesthetic, be like, that would have profited him a lot of money to sell that collection off. And it's just like, okay, who did he sell it to? Be like, and they were able to restore it, put it on DVD at least, or at least like some form of DVD.
I'm gonna call it mini Laserdisc.
Mini Laserdisc, okay,
because that's the closest I can get to.
Yeah,
some form of Laserdisc. No, sorry, this is video CD.
Video CD.
That's the format that did exist.
Oh my gosh!
It was a digital format, and you probably, and even though it would be very low quality, you could probably cram a lot of episodes on. You
probably could, but it's just like it's so like I always wonder, because like, was that able to bring Trent out of the I don't want to say the slump he was in, that be like he's wearing the Grey Ghost costume like you would see nowadays, like an actor who, like, I would say probably the actor who did what was the movie from the 1980s that it was like, oh come on, Flash Gordon. Be like, you see this guy all over the place. Be like just doing conventions and the whole. July. I've seen it a few times, going to ones here in Texas, and
Jones.
I just find that very unique. It's like, okay, would have been his career, that he would have gone on and done some greater things, or would he be doing the con circuit, making thousands, hundreds of thousands of dollars like a lot of these men and women do.
I think that's part of Simon Trent's story here is. At the very beginning, he's trying to get more acting jobs. He wants to not be known as the Gray Ghost.
Yeah,
right.
And a lot of this episode is him realizing the importance of the Gray Ghost.
Did he embrace it?
When he was selling all his stuff, he was selling it almost at a discount price just to get rid of it, just to get a paycheck to pay his rent.
Right.
He didn't value the Gray Ghost role for what it was, and so much of this episode is him learning the importance of it to the point where he's actually doing better as, like you said, pretty much doing the con circuit. I mean, this was just a tape signing, for lack of a better term.
Yeah, it was a tape signing.
But you can just imagine in the years after this, he probably went to a convention at Gotham, probably went to Metropolis, and all the other DC cities I can't think of the name of because I don't read that much comics, unfortunately. But yeah, I could see him making the con circuit at that point and making his money that way, since that's what he's known for and that's what's important. And that has meaning for him now, that it may not have before. I'm reminded actually of Leonard Nimoy as Spock, because he was hating on how much the role of Spock was holding him back, to the point where he did not initially come back for Star Trek when it was going to come back as a television series. He only came back for the motion picture because it was going to be a movie and he wanted a movie credit. And the only reason he came back for Wrath of Khan, he put in a stipulation that Spock had to die at the end during the film, so that he could not be forced to come back to play the role of Spock. And it was right before the actual filming of Spock's death scene where Leonard Nimoy came around and realized, oh, I may not want Spock to die. This may actually be an important role to me. And that's the whole reason you've got the whole, remember thing. Because at the last minute they said, well, we can't change the scene now. The character's supposed to die, but we can do something to make sure you're reincarnated. Right. You can be resurrected in the next one. And that's the whole reason you get Star Trek 3 and why Spock even shows up. Leonard Nimoy shows up as Spock in Star Trek 2009 and Into Darkness. It's because Leonard Nimoy had to come. Leonard Nimoy's biography before Star Trek 2 was named I Am Not Spock. Yeah. And he renamed it I Am Spock after he came to terms with who Spock was and how that was not actually holding him back. Yeah. That's what I'm reminded of when I'm looking at Simon Trent, except Leonard Nimoy never got into financial straits. Right. Like Simon Trent did.
Yeah, because I do like he does embrace the character. Like you said, be like, he kind of like, this is just a role. Be like, I want to be known for different things. Yeah, kind of like Luke Skywalker,
Mark Hamill
for years. Be like, he couldn't find a role until he got into.
That's why he got into voice. Part of the reason he got into voice acting.
He got into voice acting because be like he just couldn't find anything beyond be like something that was Luke Skywalker related.
Yeah, and I still think he's a better voice actor than an actor.
I agree to some extent, but I do like the idea that like it's embracing what you have. Yeah. It's like you have this iconic role and you're so ashamed of it and you just want to move past it, but you realize that, like, that is your golden egg. That is your opportunity to maybe catapult yourself forward.
Having played that character is the blessing you should not shun.
Exactly. It helps tremendously that he kind of embraces it throughout the course of the episode. It's like, oh, this is what happened. This is what happened.
Well, it's not just I'm embracing the character because it makes money, but it's the fact that he realized the impact.
That's what we're getting at.
Yeah. And that's really the biggest aspect of the horror deal. That's when you saw him perk up and we went, Batman?
Yes.
I inspired Batman.
The minute they walk into he wakes up in the Batcave because he does do the whole bat gas thing. I noticed it's not pointed out that that's what was going to happen, but I did notice.
Blindfolded.
I did notice that
with goggles on.
Wait a minute. you designed your cave to look exactly like my lair? It's like, well, yes, I was a big fan. It looked like it worked for you. I didn't know why it wouldn't work for me.
And Bruce has to go geek out. It's like, hey, come check out my shrine of you.
Yeah. It's like, Batman's a geek. Yeah, the coolest superhero, the superhero that everyone claims can defeat anybody if we give it enough preparation, is a geek. I appreciate that. That's why I think that may be to a degree why we like him better than almost every other superhero, except for maybe Spider-Man. Because Spider-Man's a geek too.
Almost.
Oh yeah, he's a geek.
Normal dudes, man.
Yeah, they're normal dudes.
Yeah.
Yep.
So
Fighting crime.
Anybody got anything else before we start working our way out?
No,
I want to add one last level that I love about
Go right
this
ahead.
is the fact, again, it's the Gray Ghost inspired Batman, and Batman shaped a lot of what he does based off the Gray Ghost. Mm-hmm. The Gray Ghost is supposed to be in part representation of the Shadow, and there are comics, and I have them. I was going to try to pull them out real quick, but I can't. Where Batman actually meets the Shadow, and you discover that he was present for the death of the Waynes, and he was but he made it too late, and he was so distraught at what he saw and the devastation in Bruce that he followed Bruce all his life, and in a way influenced him from the shadows. And that's probably the reason why Bruce carried a gun at first, and then it wasn't until later Bruce was like traumatized by the fact that his parents died from guns, and the Shadow's like, you need to take the gun. He's like, I can't, I'm not doing this. This is when he took on his own mantle away from who the Shadow's influence was. But I just appreciate that also that kind of layer to it, that in the actual comics Batman was inspired by the Shadow, at least before they had another crisis event and everything crashed.
Right. Admittedly, the reason they go with the Gray Ghost here is probably because the Shadow was still under copyright at the time. I don't think the Shadow is anymore, but, or at least the name isn't. I'm sure some of the adventures are still, but, and I'm sure the radio show still is, because that was 30s, and a lot of the 30s isn't out of copyright yet.
I do know that you can listen to it on Spotify for free, and I don't know how legal it is.
Well, it is Spotify. Who knows what's going on there?
That's true.
It's about like the archive, as I call it, the internet archive.
That's fair.
But that does bring us to the end of this episode.
Yes.
And it brings us to the end of year 5 of the Cellcast. Our next episode is actually our 6th anniversary celebration.
Yay!
So we're going to be talking about some upcoming movies that both in theaters that we're looking forward to seeing, plus movies we're looking at covering in the next year. And we're going to be taking a look back at some other stuff that happened during this year. So keep an eye out all for that. Join us next week for that. And to hear me try to dramatically say the names of our old episodes that are in the top 10 downloads, because that's always fun to do. So yeah, please join us for that. We will not be doing Batman episodes next week because we're going to be focused on the 6th anniversary, but we'll come back the week after that, which will tell you what all those episodes are next week.
So since your podcast is officially 5 years old, is it going to be kidnapped by your alien uncle, and your father's going to be blasted, and then some green dude's going to kidnap your podcast and raise you in the woods for a while and train you to be some sort of superhero?
Oh, you don't want any ideas, Deela?
just a question.
You've been listening this whole time. You just hadn't said anything.
Thanks, Deela.
At least thank you for not transforming Jacob into some weird monstrosity.
Thank you. I didn't want to turn into a whatever the. If I get turned into something at the very end of this episode, delete. We are going to have words. I don't want to turn into a great ape.
Jacob,
don't try it. Do not try it.
Jacob, I have bad news for you.
What?
You have a tail.
What? Delete.
Oh, your delivery from Space Amazon finally came in.
Oh,
that's good to know.
If there's a full moon, be like, I'm going to hurt somebody.
Thankfully, that was 2 weeks ago.
Oh, thank the Lord.
So, before Jacob turns into the great mighty Ozaru and destroys Jacksonville, Dallas, why don't you tell us about Geek Devotions and anything else you want to promote?
Sure. Geek Devotions is a show from devoted geeks are devoted to letting people know that they're loved, and we do that through a variety of ways. We do it through weekly devotionals on YouTube, which you can find on youtube.com/Geek Devotions. We also have podcasts covering a variety of topics. We have a book podcast called We Read Allegedly. We have a Gundam podcast that covers Mobile Suit Gundam franchise called The Gundam Watch. We have one where we watch terrible movies called The Bottom Shelf that you guys can check out.
Wouldn't know anything about reviewing terrible movies.
No,
and then we also
not.
have another podcast that's relatively new called The Friendly Neighborhood Spider Fan Podcast, where Branson is on a journey but talking about his favorite thing, Spider-Man. And you can find all things Geek Devotions related at geekdevotions.com, which is part of Culture Box.
Awesome.
Nice.
So yeah, next week we celebrate. But in the meantime, this has been Drew.
This is Jacob.
I'm Dallas.
And we'll catch you in the next frame.
Jacob, are you okay over there? Getting hairy.
You can follow Jacob on his Facebook at Jacob B. Heron. His Facebook page, Jacob's Daily Art Corner, where he tries to draw each and every day.
Bananas right now.
His Instagram at Jacob B. Heron. His Twitter at Jacob Heron. And his letterboxd at Jacob Heron. You can find Drew on Facebook at Drew
Have a glory
Dodgen.
ball. Looks
His
like the moon.
Facebook page, Drew's Photo Bin, to see his photography. His letterboxd page at GGeorge759.
So shiny.
His Twitter at GGeorge759. And Instagram at Drew Dodgen. You can like us on Facebook at the Cellcast Podcast. On Twitch at the Cellcast Gaming. On YouTube at Cellcast. On Twitter at cast_cell. The Cellcast can be found
If he
at Apple
grows
Podcasts,
to a
Google Play
giant
Podcasts,
size, you're
Stitcher,
paying for the
Spotify,
damages.
or anywhere else fine podcasts are downloaded from. Please rate and review
didn't
us
think we
where
ordered
you found
so
us,
many
and also
snacks.
on
You live
Podchaser.
in this studio
Email
too.
us at thecellcastpodcast@gmail.com. The Cellcast is a proud member of both the Pop Americana and Culture Box media networks. For more information, please see the link in the description. Our theme song is Drop and Roll by Silent Partner. And
Jamie?
remember, that's Cell with a single L.
On the next episode of the Cellcast, Jacob destroys Jacksonville.
Yeah. Woof.
Again?
Wait a minute. You're like, I'm a dog, not an ape. What the heck?
Sorry, the mighty Ozaruff.
Where's my Scooby snack?
They're on back order?
Somebody get him a taco.
Where's the Taco Bell dog when you need him?